Chapter 75. The waiter beamed with joy and said excitedly, I have a lowly status. How can I be called a hero? Sir, you are willing to drink with me. How delightful, delightful. Since when do heroes care about status? I was just a beggar before, and now I'm a chitin barbarian. What status do I have to look down on others? Xiao Feng laughed and said, Now that you know I'm a chitin, do you still want to drink with me? So what if you're a chitin? I'm willing to admire and imitate the kind of person I'm willing to follow. I've even thrown the rules to the back of my mind, let alone a mere status. Are there no good people in chitin? The waiter said excitedly. Xiao Feng was overjoyed. The two of them drank to their heart's content. They felt that the grievances and frustrations of the past had all been thrown to the back of their minds. Those evil people are arrogant and proud, but they don't know that heroes and warriors can't be locked up and bound. With a flick of his arm, the customer broke a section of the iron chain. Holding it in his hand, he swung it and smashed those bugs and wasps into pieces. I heard a strong gust of wind sweeping past my head. That scarred face turned red and white, splashing all over my body. Delightful, delightful. Xiao Feng laughed. That guest looked at me and trembled. He brought me a pot of hot tea from the back, took off his clothes, and draped them over me. He wiped the dirt off me and said, Little brother, I'm sorry for what happened today. I thought at that time there was nothing to be sorry about. If he was willing to apologize to me, I would be willing to die. I saw that his clothes were leaking out. It was a red, flying fish robe. I've seen this before. The people on the road are all officials of the great song. Sir, have you seen such a good official? Xiao Feng sighed and said, This must be the Martial Prohibition Hall. Their governor cleared my name and found my greatest enemy. I didn't expect the great song officials to have such a good man. The Martial Prohibition Hall has a bad reputation, but I've never heard of them offending the common people. Thinking about it today, with such a good man, the Martial Prohibition Hall must not be an evil place. To have such a good man, their governor, Chenong, must be an extraordinary person. The waiter said, I've seen their commander-in-chief before. Oh, what kind of person is he? Xiao Feng asked curiously. I didn't see him, but I heard his voice. After the guest finished tidying up, a llama came from afar. Seeing the guest's clothes, the llama launched a sneak attack. That llama's martial arts skill was very powerful. The guest's feet were not removed from the iron chains, so he was at a disadvantage. I wanted to raise my hand to splash hot tea on his face. I didn't expect that the llama would wave his sleeve and send the tea back. The tea brushed past my face and hit the wall. He said, You're a songman. I won't lower myself to your level. He raised his hand and sent out 3 streams of saber chi, smashing the tables and chairs in my shed into pieces. When I got closer, I felt a gust of hot wind blowing on my face. Geo emoji, Aju exclaimed. That's him. I've heard his name before. The waiter said, His martial arts skill is very good. His bare hands can chop the iron chains. He can chop gold and cut iron. The guest's feet are inconvenient, so he moved around and sent out saber energy from afar. In a short while, the guest was forced to block left and right. His energy was depleted. At this time, I heard a voice. On the road, the voice came from afar. I couldn't see the man's shadow. I only heard him say, Jiuemoji, you came here. The llama was so scared that his face turned pale. He abandoned the guest and wanted to run away. But before he could move, he was hit and fell to the ground. He was lying on the ground, unable to move. I looked over and saw a small stone embedded in his chest. If not for that llama's chest was still moving up and down, I would have thought he was dead. But no matter how I called him, he did not respond. I boldly slapped him, but he did not respond. I felt his pulse. It was very strong. This person was hit by a stone and stopped breathing. Xiao Feng suddenly realized that llama's martial arts skill is not low, but he was not this man's match and was knocked unconscious by a stone. That Chenang's martial arts skill, how powerful is it? I know that Jiuemoji. Aju said, He is my family's Laoi's good friend. He captured Duan Gongzi and brought him to Swallow's Dock. I heard Duan Gongzi said that he single-handedly forced the eminent monks of Dali's Tianlong Temple to burn their ancestral sword manual. I have seen him fight several times, Each time he easily took down his opponent. He is a very formidable man. I remember that Chenong is in Swallow Dock. Zhu, you escaped from there. What kind of person is he? Xiao Feng asked. Zhu frowned. His martial arts skill is very frightening. If you have not seen it with your own eyes, you will never believe that there is such a frightening martial art in the world. But he looks young, only a few years older than young Master Duan. He speaks very gently, but sometimes he can anger people to death. When he talks to us, he is very gentle, but when it comes to young Master and the others, he is not polite at all. When Abai and I escaped, it was actually because they did not care about us. Except for a few family warriors, the maids and servants of Swallow Dock came and went as they pleased. I saw him reading several times, and he looked much more focused than young Master. I rarely saw him practice martial arts, but I often heard him play the zither. If you heard the sound of his zither, it would be hard to imagine that this kind of clear sound came from him. Thinking about it, I also don't know what kind of person he is. The waiter suddenly said, I have never seen him, but the guest respected him very much. I saw the guest carry the llama and shout twice from afar, Governor! His expression was very excited, and his eyes were full of admiration and joy. The guest looked at him from afar, then hurriedly returned to the room and said a few words to me. He asked you to help him deliver this note? Xiao Feng asked. He gave me some money, saying that it was to compensate me for my loss. He said that he had an appointment with someone here, but he could not go, so he left me a note, asking me to deliver it. The waiter replied, Then the person he entrusted didn't come. What will you do? Zhu worriedly asked. I was entrusted by someone, so I have to be loyal. If he doesn't come, I'll wait for another 10 or 20 years, the waiter said with a smile. Xiao Feng frowned. How could that be? You are young. It is a good time. Let me help you see who is coming. He did not care so much and opened the note. On it was written, Mr. Zhua, seeing words is like seeing your face. The sun rises in the morning. Why not change today's appointment to tomorrow's tomorrow? If people do not betray me, how can I betray them? Old debts of gratitude and enmity can be settled at any time. When brother comes again, it will be the day I travel far. The blood debt between the two families has been unresolved for a long time. Vulture Palace has already become yesterday's flower. The main evil has been eliminated. Brother, taking out your anger on the innocent is not a gentleman's thing. Huijian sect, brother will be the sect leader. Regarding the arranged battle, let it be like flowing water, not letting down my reputation. Only the word loyalty shines through the ages. Lu Nung bows his head. Xiao Feng suddenly said, So, his name is Lu Nung. I know this person. He is the son of the former Huijian sect leader. This Mr. Zhua must be his apprentice brother Zhua Bufan. According to the letter, it seems that because of the matter of the sect leader, he arranged a battle with Zhua Bufan, but he refused to go. This battle seems to be related to Vulture Palace? Zhu said. What is there to not understand? Presumably, this Lu Nung does not care about the position of sect leader and even feels guilty towards Zhua Bufan. He only fought for the position to stop him from killing the innocent. Now he does not want to compete with my apprentice brother, so he travels far away to avoid him. Xiao Feng sighed. He is indeed affectionate and loyal. Little brother, I don't know when this Zhua Bufan will come. Do you really want to wait? I will wait, but I believe that the guest will come again. The waiter smiled. What is your name? I will go up later and meet him. I will tell him. Xiao Feng asked. He was about to go to Shaolin, so he would probably see this Lu Nung. My name is Hong Chi. The waiter said happily. The guest asked for my name. Hero, just tell him my name. The two said goodbye to Hong Chi and went straight to Shaolin. Before they reached the gate of Shaolin, they heard an uproar in front of them. Thousands of people were shouting noisily. Xingqiu immortal, good of heaven and earth. His power is unparalleled in the world. Several knights in flying fish robes stood in front of them. The order of the forbidden martial hall. Anyone who takes another step will be killed. At that time, someone laughed and said, What is the forbidden martial hall? How dare you block the way of the old immortal? The old immortal is mighty. Why don't you quickly worship him? Only our Xingqiu sect can order others. How dare you order the old immortal? Ding Chunqiu sneered and said, Who are you? Don't block my Dharma carriage. Get out of the way, or you will die in vain. If you don't get out of the way, I won't make things difficult for you. Just drink my cup of ecstasy wine." He pondered for a moment. Seeing that the forbidden martial hall was still waiting solemnly, he couldn't help but laugh. Good, good. It seems that no one in the Central Plains knows of my power for a long time." He raised his hand, and a strong wind mixed with poison hit the few people. The leading flying fish knight stretched out his hand and grabbed a pool of poisonous water in the strong wind. He didn't care and sprinkled it on the ground, giving off sizzling white smoke. He suddenly bowed to the people behind Ding Chuanxiu and got out of the way. Ding Chuanxiu was bewildered when he suddenly heard a voice behind him. "Excuse me." Ding Chuanxiu's eyes focused, and he suddenly made a move. With a wave of his hands, he grabbed a disciple beside him and threw him towards the voice. But before he landed, he saw a cold light and a stream of light. Suddenly, he saw a silver light drill into his chest, but it was too fast, and he couldn't see it clearly. He only felt a chill in his chest, and a bit of heat dissipated. His whole body was powerless. He stood on the ground weakly, and his legs were weak. Even when that person walked past him, he didn't react. The group of Xingqiu sect disciples saw that person walk straight to the front of the Flying Fish Knight. A few people cupped their fists and bowed, saying, "Greetings, Commander-in-Chief." They went to the Shaolin Temple, but Ding Chunxiu was still standing there motionless. They couldn't help but go forward and respectfully say, "Old Immortal." That disciple carefully pulled on Ding Chunxiu's sleeve and said, "Old Immortal, are we just going to let them go up?" Before he could greet him, Ding Chunxiu collapsed. Chapter 76. The disciples of the Xingqiu sect looked at Ding Chunxiu, who was paralyzed on the ground at a loss. In their minds, Ding Chunxiu was as scary as a demon. Now that they saw the scene in front of them, 90% of them did not believe it. Of the remaining 10%, 90% thought that the sect leader was testing the loyalty of the disciples. However, there were some brave disciples among the disciples of the Xingqiu sect. Their eldest brother, Zhai Xingzi, secretly winked at Chu Qinzi, who nodded knowingly. He plucked up his courage, tiptoed over, and called softly, "Master, Master." Chu Qinzi's back was covered in cold sweat. He took out all the courage he had since he was born and patted Ding Chunxiu's shoulder. When his hand touched Ding Chunxiu's shoulder, he suddenly froze. "How dare you?" Ding Chunxiu's voice suddenly came. "Master, please spare my life. Immortal, please spare my life." The disciples of the Xingqiu sect were so scared that they knelt on the ground. Zhai Xingzi lay on the ground and kept kowtowing until his forehead was bleeding. The disciples of the Xingqiu sect kept kowtowing as if they were pounding garlic, and their faces were covered in blood. The disciples of the beggar sect could feel that the ground under their feet began to shake slightly. "Zhai Xingzi, how dare you? Are you going to dig out your eye yourself, or do you want me to do it myself?" The gloomy voice came to Zhai Xingzi's ears and scared him out of his wits. "I dare not trouble you, Immortal. I dare not trouble you, Master." He reached back and stabbed his left eye. Blood dripped from the wound, making him look like an evil Asura. Everyone present saw him destroy one of his own eyes without hesitation. His ruthlessness caused their hands and feet to tremble. Ding Chunxiu, who could make him do such a thing, was even more mysterious in the eyes of the crowd. "Destroy the other one, too," the gloomy voice said again. Under the sharp pain, Zhai Xingzi became more clear-headed. He actually heard a hint of a smile in the voice of his master. He struggled out of Ding Chunxiu's shadow and found that Ding Chunxiu was still lying on the ground, motionless. "Hurry up and do it," that voice urged, but Zhai Xingzi suddenly jumped up and waved his hands. A poisonous wind blew down a group of disciples of the beggar gang. He reached out his hand and slashed at a strange girl in purple who was hiding in the crowd. "Azi, you're courting death." Zhai Xingzi seemed to have gone mad. Enduring the sharp pain in his left eye, he used all his vicious moves to make Z wish she was dead. Unexpectedly, for people suddenly rushed out and stood in front of Z. Another middle-aged scholar supported Z and said anxiously, "Z, come back." He pointed with his right hand, and the pure one-yang finger broke Zhai Xingzi's poisonous palm. He pulled Zi back 4 steps and went into the crowd. Zhai Zhai Zhai. Zhai Xingzi stepped back. Zhai Xingzi's hand. Zhai Xingzi's Xingzi and Xing Xing's. In Zhan Xingzi Zhan, a Zhai Zed. Zhai Xingzi was furious when he saw Chu Qinzi standing stiffly in front of Ding Chuanxiu. He waved his hand and hit Chu Qinzi's back. Unexpectedly, Chu Qinzi was sent flying 10 feet away and fell on the ground. Dark purple blood flowed out of Chu Qinzi's gray eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. It was obvious that he had been dead for a long time. The crowd was shocked. They retreated dozens of steps and made a big circle around Ding Chuanxiu. Even Zi's face was gloomy. She was sure that Ding Chuanxiu was dead, but when she saw Chu Qinzi's miserable condition, she became more doubtful. Was such a scary old monster really dead? A heart-wrenching scream came out of Zhai Xingzi's mouth. The crowd was shocked to see that Zhai Xingzi pretended to be crazy and killed people everywhere. His eyes, nose, mouth were covered with blood, and purplish blood oozed out of his mouth and nose. His martial arts were 10 times more powerful than usual, and Mo Yunzi couldn't get away from his grasp. The disciples of Xingxiu's sect didn't care about their old grudges anymore. They joined hands to deal with this eldest brother who was killing wantonly. But in a short while, those who were caught and injured by Zhai Xingzi also became crazy. In the blink of an eye, the huge Xingxiu sect was killed. Regardless of whether they were close or not, they killed anyone they saw. They didn't dare to let anyone near them. The beggar gang and the crowd were silent. They were shocked to see the bloody scene in front of them. There were no good people among the disciples of Xingxiu's sect. Every one of them was a figure that the righteous sect wanted to get rid of. However, these righteous disciples were still shocked by the scene in front of them. Hundreds of disciples were killed and wounded in just a few breaths. Blood and flesh surrounded Ding Chuanxiu in a big circle. There was no Xingxiu sect disciple who was still conscious. There were only dozens of corpses killing each other. Silently, dozens of knights in flying suits appeared in the surroundings and watched quietly. It was not until a whistle sounded that all the corpses of Xingxiu sect fell to the ground as if they had lost their power. A smiling commander of the forbidden martial hall walked to Ding Chuanxiu, pried open his body, and took a swallowtail dart from his chest. Then, he turned around and walked toward the crowd. With every step he took, the people of Beggar Gang and the crowd took a step back. They were more than 300 feet away from him. He smiled and said, "Just now, Commander Tong ordered that anyone who takes 1 step forward will be killed without mercy. Now, those who deserve to die will not be pardoned. The commander is waiting for you in the hall. Please go ahead." He ignored the crowd, whose faces had turned pale, and shouted at the top of the mountain, "Monks, come out and clean the ground." His voice was not loud, but clearly echoed in everyone's ears. Even Xian Xiai, who was far away in the Mahavira hall, could not help but raise her eyelids. A few old monks sighed, chanted the name of Buddha, closed their eyes, and shook their heads. On the mountain road, a young girl in a commander's uniform looked at Chunong with a smile and said in a sweet voice, "Commander, how did I do? Does it suit the commander-in-chief? If you talk to me in this tone again, I'll kill you." Tong Guan. Chun Ang's expression was indifferent, but there was a kind of solemnity in his voice that could not be refused. Tong Guan believed that Chunong would really do what he said. She straightened her expression and said respectfully, "It's not that I'm pretending. It's just that the Sunflower Treasure Book has gradually deepened, allowing me to understand a layer of the transformation of heaven and man, as well as the beauty of the rhythm of yin and yang. I really feel that I've been living a hard life in the past. What power? Status? I've lost my mind and confused my mind. Only when my Lord taught me this divine art did I realize that there was such a way of living in the mortal world. To think that there was such a taste in the filthy world of mortals. I suddenly felt that this scheming, the struggle for power and profit of the past, were actually so laughable. The miraculous transformation of heaven and man, endless joy. This is the true meaning of this world. Tong Guan's every frown and smile was no different from that of a 16-year-old girl, exuding a charming charm. The surrounding dragon stallion guards stared straight ahead, unblinking as if they were facing a great enemy. To be able to cultivate this sunflower treasure book to such a level, even I am shocked. I originally thought that you would at most cultivate to the realm of turning yin into yang and regenerating a male body, or perhaps an even lower realm, where yin and yang are indistinguishable. Who would have thought that you would actually cultivate yourself to become a woman? Chenong sighed. The Sunflower Treasure Book is a martial art of extreme yang. To be able to cultivate it to the point of extreme yang, giving birth to yin, is already extraordinary. I didn't think that you would be able to go even further and comprehend the harmony of yin and yang, the miraculous effect of the transformation of heaven and man. Neither male nor female, neither yin nor yang, neither mortal flesh nor mortal flesh, not a mortal man, but a celestial being born out of nothing, endlessly blissful. Tong Guan smiled tenderly and said, Commander-in-Chief is not a mortal. You can't see through my outer appearance. Male appearance and female appearance. I don't have the appearance of myself, the appearance of all living things, and the appearance of longevity. Commander-in-Chief has already realized this. Why do you still care about these outer appearances? Since I've already realized this, why should I care about it? Whatever I put down, I will pick it up if I want to. Chunong smiled as he glanced at her, causing Tong Guan to feel a chill run through her body. She hurriedly lowered her head. I understand, Governor. Just now your attack was too brutal. The martial art that leaves no room for maneuver is only a killing weapon. It can't be what you rely on to climb the Tao of celestial beings. You originally had a strange idea, but unfortunately, it gradually went to the extreme. You don't care about the life and death note, but your martial art that imitates the life and death note may not be that exquisite. Chenong sighed. The yin and yang qi condensed into ice. The Vulture Palace has given me a big surprise. Tong Guan said guiltily. I didn't know that the old princess of Xixia had such a powerful helper. If it weren't for the fact that they were still scheming against each other at the critical moment of life and death, I might not have been able to defeat them. Governor, you have read all the martial art books in the Vulture Palace. You must know that I cultivated the 8 Desolation and 6 Directions Supremacy Kung Fu. That was why the extreme yang gave birth to yin and broke away from the barrier of the Sunflower Treasure Book created by Governor. Originally, I wanted to create my own martial art, but after thinking about it, I couldn't leave the Sunflower Treasure Book. Only then did I realize that although Governor didn't fully master it, you left a shadow of further improvement. After all, my Tao of celestial beings is still in the shadow of Governor. Tong Guan took a deep look at Chenong and sighed. This martial art's power is passable, but it is still far from reaching the level of maturity to touch upon the great Tao. Compared to the Sunflower Treasure Manual, it is just a toy. The Life and Death Note uses the yin and yang qi to touch the acupoints of the human body. But you can use my Golden Chambers outline of the Golden Chambers idea of the universe is a big human body, and the human body is a small universe to guide the Life and Death Note. Chenong nodded. Yin, 6 yang, and 9 qi. There are tens of thousands of kinds of qi. I comprehend yin and yang, but you categorize them as all things. You create many kinds of true qi and use them as medicine and poison. Although the qi poison was born from my disease, true qi, your understanding of it is not inferior to mine. Ding Chunxiu is just a minor poison master. You are overestimating him by using the qi poison to kill him. Chenong looked at the foot of the mountain and said, all qi poison uses qi as a carrier. Like maggots in the tarsal bones, it lives in the internal energy. If others sense it, the poison will be released. You use the internal energy of the Xingqiu faction as the base of the poison, so you don't have to worry about hurting others. You can spread it to 2 people, and it will be easy for you to kill the entire Xingqiu faction. Kill without mercy, Tong Guan said with a smile. If you use this martial art to study killing people, it will be such a waste. Chen Ong shook his head. Martial arts are not used to kill people. Bodhidharma didn't create a martial art that specializes in killing people, and neither did the unfettered one. If you can brew the wine of immortality with a different kind of true qi, wouldn't it be better than creating a martial art that kills millions? Poison. Tong Guan was stunned for a moment, then suddenly smiled like a peach blossom in spring. Military governor is right. I have gone astray. In this world, I can kill people without using the qi poison, but I can't. She glanced at Chenong and continued. Even if there are millions of qi poison, it will be of no use. This is indeed a useless martial art. It's a pity that this martial art of mine is practiced by the government's secret department. Although it is still a short time, and I don't plan to teach them more powerful methods, it is still a hidden danger. I don't want the whole world to be filled with madmen who practice killing martial arts and let the dignified righteous path decline. This martial art, let's call it heavenly net deception, I will make up for its missing parts. As one of the thousands of flowers in Jianghu, competing with the others for beauty is also a good thing. Chenong said with a smile. Tong Guan waved her hand and complained, the swallowtail dart is still a bit too heavy. It would be better if it were silver needles. Heavenly net deception. Why don't we let them use silver needles as weapons? In a small space, life and death can be decided in an instant. It should be very suitable. Chapter 77. Buddha pinches flowers, Kassapa smiles. With the heart as the seal, it is not taught outside the sect. Shaolin was a place where martial arts were the most flourishing in the world. Its rules were extremely strict, which made people forget its other famous identity, the Zen sect, the ancestral court of the Han dynasty. Chenong stood in front of the Shaolin steel forest, observing these simple stone tablets. Behind him, a large group of martial arts people gathered outside the mountain gate. The skanda on the gate was held high, and the steel forest was full of famous calligraphers of the past generations. Many of them were carved by the eminent monks of the Zen sect. It was really a wonderful place. Unfortunately, these martial arts people did not have the same interest as Chenong. They had no interest in these simple characters. Instead, they widened their eyes and looked at the empty space behind the mountain gate. Of course, if Chenong told them that these inconspicuous stone tablets hid many traces of the martial arts left by the Zen sect, then it would be different. Without enough wisdom, even if there were peerless martial arts in front of them, what could they do? As before, he was completely blind and illiterate. Anyone who had been in Jianghu for a few days would have heard of Shaolin. Even if they were not martial arts people, as long as they had some knowledge, they should know about Shaolin. It was not only a sect in Jianghu, but also the ancestral court of the Zen sect. Abbot Xianxi was known as the tiger-taming Arhat in the early years. But no matter how famous he was, people would only remember his identity, the abbot of Shaolin. Abbot Xianxi was respected for his strong martial arts. But Shaolin's Buddhism declined, leaving only the name of Shaolin. If Abbot Xianxi's martial arts were not good, Shaolin would not have the face to call itself the Holy Land of martial arts. A 1,000-year-old temple rose and fell like this. Fortunately, this time, Shaolin did not have to bear such great pressure, because their opponent was recognized as the most terrifying and powerful master in Jianghu for 100 years. It was a terrible force that had never existed in Jianghu. Western Xia's Class 1 Hall, Heaven Mountain's Spirit Vulture Palace, Jiangnan's Thunderbolt Hall, Sichuan's Tang Sect, the Wen Clan, and countless other famous sects of various sizes that could compare to Shaolin Temple were reduced to ashes before this powerful, crushing force. The three words, Martial Prohibition Hall, were like Mount Tai in the North Sea, pressing heavily on the hearts of everyone present. Behind this unconventional monster in the martial arts world stood an even more suffocating behemoth. The thing that they used to laugh at made everyone feel a deep pressure today. Someone sighed. The imperial court. The heroes of Wulin present, like commoners in the marketplace, sighed helplessly, lamenting the shadow and horror of this behemoth. It was not only because of the Central's awe-inspiring reputation for 1,000 years, but also because of the demon-like shadow behind it, who was now standing in front of the steel forest and looking at the calligraphy with great interest. Although there were 500 Shaolin monks behind Xian Ci, facing Chenong, he still felt his scalp tingle. Before he could say anything, Chenong had already turned around and looked at the heroes of Wulin present. Almsgiver Chun, regarding the enmity between me and Murong family, I have already invited a few legendary figures to prove that Murong family's actions had nothing to do with Shaolin. We really did not know about the restoration of Xinbei, Xian Ci said in a deep voice. He stood up and let the few legendary figures come up. It was still Zhao Qiansun, Zhi Guang, and the others. Master Zhi Guang looked at Chenong and said, Almsgiver Chun, we meet again. Master Zhi Guang, how have you been? Chenong smiled and said, sleep less, talk less. I only hope that Almsgiver Chun can give me peace. Master Zhi Guang put his palms together and bowed deeply to the heroes present. He said, Almsgiver Shao, today is the day the truth will be revealed. The tragedy outside Yinmen Pass will come to an end today. Almsgiver, please come out for a chat. Please come out for a chat. His voice reverberated in the field and could be heard from tens of miles away. I am coming. A loud shout came from afar. After a few leaps, Xiao Feng arrived at the front of the mountain gate. Seeing his arrival, the heroes were in an uproar. Many shouts came from all directions. Xiao Feng, you bastard who killed your father, your mother, and your master. Kill this dog. A real man dares to do what he does. If it was me who did it, I will take responsibility. If it was not me who did it, no one can pour dirty water on me. I am a real man. I dare to take responsibility for what I have done. Even if it was me who killed my father and mother, why wouldn't I dare to admit it? His words were stern. Everyone saw that he was tall and had a broad chest and thick arms. Between his brows, there was a natural majesty, and he actually had a calm expression. They muttered in their hearts, I have heard that Xiao Feng is a generous and straightforward person. Seeing him today, how could such a man be someone who hides his head and shows his tail? Could it be that we are really mistaken? Umaba, everyone, please listen to what I have to say. Master Zhiguang said slowly, I believe that Mr. Xiao, Elder Su, the Xiao couple, and Master Shinku's death have other secrets. Everyone, please listen slowly. Everyone naturally believed in Master Zhiguang's prestige. They were immediately appeased and looked at the field. 20 years ago, the tragedy outside the Yinmen Pass was done by me and my men. Xian Ci sighed. I was deceived by others. I mistakenly believed the words of the scoundrel and caused Mr. Zhao's family to be innocent. All the sins are on me. What a pity. Chenong sighed. Abbot Xian Ci, it was an unintentional mistake. It is indeed a pity. Master Zhi Guang shook his head and sighed. It is a pity that Abbot Xian Ci became a monk. If you became an official, there would definitely be a first-rank official position for you in the imperial court. Chenong said lightly, Abbot Xian Ci, you can speak slowly. There are still many sins after this. The sins of Second Mother Yi, the wrongdoings of the Shaolin disciples. You have to bear all of them. I don't know if the sins are too light or your shoulders are too heavy. Hearing this, Xian Ci's body couldn't help but tremble. He could not stand still for a moment. He silently took a deep breath and closed his eyes, not daring to look at Chenong. What nonsense are you talking about? The hot-tempered Xian sure said angrily. He grabbed the Buddha staff beside him and was about to rush forward when he heard Xian Ci shout, Junior Xinsher, stop. Nameless anger is the most harmful cultivation. Stand down. Xian Ci sighed. Mr. Chun is right. I am guilty, and it is a sin that cannot be washed clean even with all the water in the 4 seas. It is a sin that cannot be washed clean even with all the iron in the 9 continents. A great sin, Chunong said slowly. The Buddhist precepts are divided into basic precepts and Mahayana precepts. However, killing is the first precept, and lust is the second or third precept. We Shaolin monks exterminate evil and protect the Tao. We uphold justice and eliminate evil. Even if we violated the precept of killing and fell into a vici, it was out of kindness and good deeds. If you use this to slander Abbot Xianshi, you will only become a laughing stock. Xianshi glared angrily and said sarcastically, "Even if Abbot Xianshi committed the sin of killing, it is not your turn to speak." His words were magnanimous. Shaolin monks sacrificed many lives to exterminate evil and protect the Tao. Even though it was a pity to kill innocent people, the heroes present at the scene did not dare to say that they had never killed an innocent person. Master Xianxi believed in evil and killed innocent people. Even though it was a pity, it was not an unforgivable sin. They all supported Xianshi. Master Zhiguang also said, "Even though Abbot Xianxi is wrong, Mister, you have gone too far. Abbot Xianshi has repented long ago. I only wish to resolve this ill-fated relationship with him. Benefactor Xiao, this old monk's life is yours to take. With the heroes present as witnesses, they will definitely not blame you. I only hope that my life will be able to avenge your parents' blood feud. Blood for blood, blood for blood. Heroes, it is only right and proper for Mr. Xiao to avenge his parents. Even if we die, we will not have any complaints." Zen Master Zhiguang took a step forward and bared his bony chest. He said, "We have committed a grave sin by killing a good person by mistake. If everyone were to seek revenge for us, I will not be able to rest in peace even in the netherworld. Karma is retribution. Mr. Chen is right, I was wrong. Mr. Xiao, I have let you down." Zhao Qiansun also sighed. He took off his shirt and revealed his hairy chest. He handed over a sharp knife and said to Xiao Feng, "I, Zhao Qiansun, have lived an ignoble life for decades. Every time I close my eyes, I can still see the tragic scene. Today, I have to pay for my life with such calmness. Xiaowan, before you die, are you willing to sing for me those songs from the past?" Granny Ting covered her mouth and whimpered, "Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this? Outside Yimen Pass, it was our fault. A good man dares to take responsibility for his actions. I, Zhao Qiansun, have forgotten my name all my life. From today onwards, I can calmly carve my name on my grave. Xiao Wan, carve my name on it. Who wants to carve your name? Who knows what it is?" Elder Tan was so angry that his eyes widened. He looked at Xiao Feng, then back at Granny Tan. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Then, Xianxi opened his mouth, wanting to say something. He saw Chanong staring at him. He opened his mouth a few times, then closed it a few times. His face showed an extremely conflicted expression. 2 droplets of tears fell from the corners of his eyes. He choked, "Mr. Chun, Mr. Chun." It was difficult to say everything. Xiao Feng took the knife and looked at Monk Zhiguang and Zhao Qiansun. His hands trembled slightly. He asked, "Decades ago, you killed my parents. Today, as their son, I, Xiao, will avenge them. Should I? Avenging one's father is right and proper. Mr. Chun should. Mr. Xiao, you should be enjoying the happiness of your family. The debt of blood that I have committed must naturally be repaid with blood. Mr. Chun, do it." Monk Zhiguang closed his eyes and said. Xiao Feng raised the knife and stabbed it down angrily. Everyone present cried out in surprise. Among them, only a woman's voice was the clearest. When everyone came back to their senses, they saw Monk Zhiguang's shocked expression. Only then did they see that the knife was buried in the ground in front of him. Only the handle was left outside. There were so many people here that the ground was harder than the blue stone. But now, the knife was buried in the ground. This palm strength could be said to be unparalleled. Could it be that Xiao Feng thinks that the knife is too sharp and wants to kill them with the dragon's subduing palm? Everyone thought. Only Azhu looked at Xiao Feng with tears streaming down her face. Only she knew what kind of struggle Xiao Feng had gone through. Xiao Feng raised his head and screamed crazily. "In the past, my father did not kill you. Today, I will also spare your lives." After saying this, he could not continue. Zhao Qiansun and Zhiguang looked down. They could not bear to look at him. Only Chenong kept staring at Xianxi. He saw his face change from struggle to calmness. Xianxi's eyes were calm. He raised his head and looked at Chenong. Chapter 78. No! A woman's scream came from the audience. The crowd was shocked. How could they have expected Abbot Xianxi to do such a thing? Every move of the great Vajra palm carried the power of a dragon and elephant. Who in this world could block Abbot Xian Si's sudden palm strike? Even a steel hammer as big as a head would leave a palm-sized handprint if it was hit by this palm strike. A person's skull was so fragile that it would be torn apart by this palm strike. This incomparably gruesome way of dying without an intact corpse made the crowd unable to bear to watch. They all turned their heads away. However, a seemingly unstable hand firmly blocked Xian Si's palm strike. Everyone knew that when it came to palm energy, it was best to go straight. The dragon-subduing palm was already unparalleled in the world. Who would have thought that there was such a palm strike in this world? Although Xian Si's palm strike was a backhand, it was moving from top to bottom. It was extremely smooth. However, the palm strike was moving horizontally and blocked the palm strike. Such a twisted and strange posture was actually able to withstand the peerless might of the great Vajra palm, a palm force that could split mountains and split rocks. Everyone looked at the hand. There was only one thought in their minds. Is this a human or a ghost? That hand belonged to Chenong. He looked at Xian Si with an indecipherable gaze. Abbot Xian Si, you've been able to sleep peacefully all these years. You've been able to face your conscience calmly, but you can't face reality. Where's your determination? Chenong said indifferently. Buddha is merciful. Xian Si retracted his hand and closed his eyes. Buddha is merciful and has delivered all living beings from suffering. Shaolin is the holy land of Zen Buddhism and has delivered many fools. I have seen all living beings, including those who are foolish and greedy, but all of them are obsessed with fame and fortune, losing their minds. Buddha is the enlightened one, and Shaolin is the ancestral court of Zen Buddhism. Shut up. What right do you have to tarnish Shaolin's reputation? The Shaolin monks stepped forward. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Shaolin Temple's reputation, Xian Si. In your life, you've lost your true feelings, lost your discipline, lost your soul, lost your compassion, greed, obsession, anger, and arrogance. Wasn't it all for this Shaolin Temple's golden body? Clean and spotless, shining brilliance. What a golden body. What a good Shaolin reputation. Etiquette can kill people, so can a good reputation. It has killed many people, isn't it? Chenong laughed. Second Madam Yi. Chenong shouted at the crowd. Since you're here, make it clear. The crowd opened up a path, revealing the figure of Yi and Yang. It was unknown when her hair had turned white, and her face was covered with wrinkles. She was no longer as charming as she was when they first met. Where's my son? I know you have a trace of him. Have pity on me and tell me where he is. Second Madam Ye's eyes were confused. When she saw Chenong, she asked excitedly. In her hand, she was holding a tattered swaddling cloth. When Chenong saw the swaddling cloth, he understood. It seemed that Xiao Yuanshan had also taken action. But now that he was here, there was no need for him to personally take action. If I pity you, then who will pity those innocent children? Who will pity those parents who have lost their own flesh and blood? Do you want me to say Amit Ba, close my eyes and pretend that those innocent souls don't exist? Chenong asked with a smile. Among the heroes, there were not many who had enmity with Second Madam Yi. However, there were many who could not bear to watch her evil deeds. The mysterious corpse with a fiery temper had long been unable to restrain his anger. Because of Chun Ang's identity, he did not dare to directly attack. Why are you colluding with Second Madam Yi? Is Shaolin a place where a sinful person like her can come? The mysterious corpse shouted and suddenly pounced towards Second Madam Yi. His staff technique was refined. A long staff made of fine steel stirred up gusts of wind as it whizzed towards Second Madam Yi's head. Among the heroes, there were already people secretly cheering. The exorcism staff technique is indeed powerful. They originally thought that Second Madam Yi's martial arts were powerful and not below that of Xian Shi. They would definitely fight for dozens of moves. At that time, everyone would swarm up and kill that demoness. Unexpectedly, ever since Second Madam Yi appeared, she was in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. Even when she saw the long staff coming toward her head, she did not react. Seeing that she was about to die under the staff, Xianxi's face revealed a sorrowful expression. His hands trembled violently, and tears flowed down his face. He raised the Vajra palm several times and put it down several times. In just a short moment, he actually repeated it 3 times. With one hand holding the Xianshi Buddha staff, Chenong sighed and said, "Second Madam Yi, do you want to die? Ever since my child went missing, I have lost the meaning of living. All these years, I have been living in a daze. I just want to see him and ask him, all these years, how was he?" "Second Madam," Yi said woodenly, "every time I see those people, their children are so cute. I also have such a cute child." As she spoke, her eyes turned red. "You know where he is, don't you? Please tell me. You came here today. You should know that no one in this courtyard will allow you to walk out of the Shaolin Temple alive. Even if it is me, I will eliminate you, the world's second most heinous villain, and also the world's first most heinous villain." Chenong said coldly, "If you want to make your move, I, Duan, will take it." Duan Yanqing smiled coldly. "Do you think you are the world's first most heinous villain? Ridiculous. You, Duan Yanqing, have killed countless people. Your hands are stained with blood, but when it comes to evil deeds, can you even compare to Second Madam Yi? In any case, the people you killed were martial artists, but she killed innocent children. Your evil deeds, compared to her, are simply Bodhisattva's heart." Chun Ong sneered without any trace of politeness. "The world's first most heinous villain I am talking about is a great hero in the world of martial arts, a plaything that everyone praises. He wears a golden kasaya and is respected by everyone. Compared to him, what are you?" Every time Chun Ong said a sentence, the people present would look at Xianxi. Seeing Xianxi's pale face and trembling white eyebrows, Xianshi could not help but say, "But Benefactor Chun, you are right." Xianxi took off his kasaya, kneeled heavily in front of the world, and said with a trembling voice, "This world's first most heinous villain should be born by this old monk." But Chenong did not even look at him, but said to Second Madam Yi, "You have done so much, is it worth it?" Second Madam Yi combed her hair. "I know my own bitterness. In order to see him, everything is worth it. Lord, please tell me the whereabouts of that child." Chenong sighed. "Although you are hateful, that child is innocent. If I tell you, I am afraid that there will be no place for him in the world. Come closer to me." Second Madam Yi moved closer to Chenong and listened to his words. Her face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression, and she excitedly looked towards the Shaolin Temple. When she saw an ugly little monk, she excitedly turned her head, not daring to look at him again. Thank you. Second Madam Yi burst into tears. When she saw that little monk, although she did not know what his name was, his eyebrows and eyes were extremely similar to when he was a child. He was extraordinarily ugly. She was somewhat at a loss and did not know what to do. She could only look back at Xianxi, as if she wanted to get some comfort from him. At this moment, she had never looked forward to a family reunion so much. "Your wish has been fulfilled. I can also rest assured and let you go on your way." Chenong said lightly, "Almsgiver Chun, please wait. All the sins are caused by me. Let me bear her sins." Xianxi could not help but say, "You can't bear it." Chenong replied coldly, "Xianxi, you can't bear the responsibility for all this. Decades ago at Yinmen Pass, you couldn't bear the responsibility for it, causing Yi Ernyang to lose her son. You couldn't bear the responsibility for the crime of adultery, causing Yi Ernyang's hands to be stained with blood. You still can't bear the responsibility for the death of countless innocent children. Today, you have lost your reputation. Look back, what have you borne? You are not as good as a person, let alone a monk. You have been fighting for the reputation of Shaolin all your life, but in the end, you still can't bear the reputation of Shaolin." Chenong sighed. "You are really a man without any responsibility. Is a monk also a man? All the foolishness is my sin, and it has nothing to do with Shaolin," Xianxi said with difficulty. Chapter 79. The faces of the Shaolin monks were ashen, as if a layer of ash could be scraped off. Chenang's words were very serious. What he meant was that all the monks in the courtyard were hypocritical and ignorant. None of them was worthy of his respect. But seeing Xian Xi's defeated face, they could not say anything to defend themselves. Chenong did not mention anyone, but the people present were all shrewd people. They had already guessed the conflict between Xian Xi and Yi Ernyang. They just did not say it out of respect for Shaolin. All the heroes in the yard stood there in silence. That in itself was a kind of stance. Otherwise, with the good karma that Shaolin had built in the martial arts world, how could no one have spoken up to help them? The lives of hundreds of innocent children, the grief of hundreds of ordinary families. Who could bear such a sin? Xian Xi looked haggard. He struggled to get up and looked around at the heroes in the courtyard. Looking at their disdainful, sighing, or resentful eyes, he sighed in despair. Excellent, excellent. Since there is karma, there will be karma. Ernyang, you have suffered all these years. Alas! His long sigh was filled with endless remorse. Xian Xi turned around to face Chenong and pleaded, "What the old monk has done, even though it is innumerable and unspeakable, it has nothing to do with the other disciples of Shaolin Temple. Shaolin Temple has strict rules and regulations since the ancient times. The other martial brothers and martial brothers strictly abide by the rules and practice Buddhism. Benefactor, you must not generalize. I am an idiot. It has nothing to do with the other Buddhist disciples." He knelt down heavily and pleaded, "Benefactor, please allow me to receive the punishment of 200 strokes of the rod, and then I will go with you to the 6th fan school to be punished." He spat out the last 4 words. A line of turbid tears flowed down along the wrinkles. His white eyebrows fluttered in the wind, desolate and lonely. The crowd of heroes on the scene saw that the abbot, who was usually full of vigor, now looked like an ordinary old man. They could not help but feel a bit sorry for him. The Shaolin monks even lowered their heads and closed their eyes, silently reciting the name of Buddha. Xian Xi, you've let Shaolin down, but what about the others? Chenong sighed and said, "Even in this situation, what you can't forget is still Shaolin's clean reputation. Your child is right in front of you, but you don't even ask about it. You don't even care about second Mother Ye's life or death. This is your family's business, so I shouldn't say much. But even now, what you can't let go of is still the Shaolin Temple on Mount Song. Have you repented in the past 20 years? At this moment, you still don't know that I'm here to force you today, not because of the bullshit Shaolin rules, but because you've been watching and conniving at second Mother Ye's evil deeds for the past decades." Chenong took a good look at the gate of the Shaolin Temple. The words Zen Sect Ancestral Court shone in the sunlight. He sighed painfully and said, "Before you die, you are still thinking about the commandments and rules of the Shaolin Temple. It seems to be a great honor for you to die under the rules of the Shaolin Temple. Buddha has chanted the word mercy for so long. Has it become a rule? When I read the Buddhist scriptures, I saw mercy and mercy for all living beings. But in Shaolin's Buddhist scriptures, I saw rules and a bloody word. Eat people. Xian Xi. Until today, you still put mercy and mercy behind the rules. This is Shaolin's sin." Xian Xi closed her eyes and said, "I did not abide by the rules and made a big mistake. Shaolin's precepts persuade people to do good. It is a very good thing. Today, I have added dignity to Shaolin's rules. I am sure that in the future, the monks will always be vigilant and will not repeat my mistakes. This will not go against the original meaning of mercy and precepts. What a pity, what a pity. Your rules are cannibalistic rules. Your precepts are killing precepts. How many tenant farmers at the foot of Mount Song have died because of this rule? At the foot of Buddhism, the life of the poor is even more difficult than in other places. You are Kasayas in Guild Buddha's body. You don't produce, don't work. You follow the rules and follow the precepts. But what you eat is human blood and human flesh. Buddha's golden body is gilded with the blood and sweat of the farmers. You are chanting mercy and serving Buddha. In this world, there are people suffering all the time. On a mountain, have you done anything for them? Adding oil in the middle of the night, burning incense day and night. Copper luohan, gold-plated dharmakaya. Extravagant serving Buddha, but ignoring mercy. Shaolin's rules. Why don't you change them into Baizhang's rules? Baizhang, the founder of the Tang dynasty's Zen sect, worshipped Buddha by bowing to the fields. He advocated self-work and self-reliance. The Shaolin monks naturally knew this. Hearing this, their faces changed. Xianxi took a deep breath and was speechless. He looked at Yi Ernyang and thought of his own child. He could not help but ask softly, "Ernyang, where's our son? Can't you just tell me?" Yi Ernyang heard this and revealed a happy expression. She wanted to point out to Xianxi, but she did not dare. She moved closer to Xianxi's ear and whispered something. Xianxi looked in the direction of the Shaolin monks. Suddenly he smiled calmly and said, "I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. Ernyang, don't worry. He is a very good child." He turned to look at Chunong. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but suddenly he did not want to and just shook his head. Yi Ernyang pulled him and said with a smile, "You go first. I know he is good, so I am relieved." Her face showed a calm expression. Xianxi and Chunong understood something. Yi Ernyang took out a dagger from her bosom and said to Chunong, "Originally, if you lied to me, I was going to use this dagger to end it. I knew what you wanted to do, so I thought that when I die, you will not have any evidence. But you did not lie to me? How do you know I did not lie to you? Don't you want to verify it?" Chunong asked. "When I saw him, I knew it. His eyes and brows are not wrong. When I look at him, it is like looking at a piece of my flesh. It is very intimate." Yi Ernyang said calmly, "He has a mother like me. Is it very embarrassing?" She was fine a moment ago, but when she said this, she could not help but sob and tremble. "He is a kind person. He will not feel embarrassed. He will only be grateful to you, love you, and use his life to atone for your sins." Chunong said slowly, No, my sins are so heavy. I don't want him to pay for them for me." Yi Ernyang's voice was choked with tears. "He should be innocent and live his own life. It has nothing to do with me, a damn woman. Don't let him know. Don't let him know about me." When she said this, she felt like a knife was being twisted in her heart. "Do you know who took your child away?" Chunong let out a long sigh. I beg him not to disturb my child," Yi Ernyang said painfully. She could not help but want to protect her child, but she did not dare to. She could only helplessly grab the rigid board and leave streaks of blood on it. No one is innocent. All sentient beings are sinners. Xianxi, the blood debt outside Yinmen Pass will eventually be repaid by someone. You broke his family, and he separated your flesh and blood. Life is unpredictable. Revenge breeds revenge. When will it end? Karma, retribution. Xianxi sighed and said, "I wonder how many of the Qiao couple, Mengdian and Xianku, were killed by that benefactor. Mengdian was killed by his wife, who had an affair with Bai Shijing. The others were all killed by him. Will he harm my child?" Yi Ernyang looked at Chunong helplessly. Chunong looked back at Xiao Feng and said, "Hero Xiao is 80% similar to him. They are both good men. I think he would not bully an orphan." Yi Ernyang smiled bitterly and said, "Good. It's good that he won't." She pulled out the dagger and looked at her face under the cold light of the dagger. She sighed and said, I want to hear him call me mother." She suddenly turned back and stabbed her right arm. "Ernyang." Xianxi was shocked and tried to stop her, but she was blocked by Yi Ernyang's flesh and blood. Yi Ernyang cut off a bloody piece of flesh from her own body. She said to the crowd, "In the past, I acted recklessly and unscrupulously. I committed many evil deeds. I even separated the flesh and blood of my loved ones. Today I, Yi Ernyang, cut off my flesh and bones to pay for my sins." Her voice was high-pitched and intense, startling everyone on the scene. Even Chunong was taken aback. He didn't expect her to be so resolute. He saw Yi Ernyang backhandedly cut off her little finger. Xianxi rushed forward and pulled her. The old monk cried bitterly and said, "Ernyang, all the sins are because of me. You can't do this." "I know." Yi Ernyang smiled bitterly and said, "I am also a mother. How can I not know how the hatred of losing one's own flesh and blood can drive one crazy? What I experienced 20 years ago, the people here, the people in the world have all experienced. In the past, I could not wait to eat their flesh and sleep on their skin. Today, how many people have experienced the same pain as me and have such hatred? She smiled and said, I want my child to live a pure and innocent life in this world. His mother should also be a pure and innocent person. I only hope that my flesh and blood can make up for that 1 in a million sin, so that Buddha can bless him to be safe and happy, so that he will no longer bear the burden of my sins. Xianxi said with a trembling voice, Ernyang, you must have a reason. He held her and stood up. He trembled and put Yi Ernyang on the ground. He was afraid that his tears would drip on Yi Ernyang's wound. You are afraid, aren't you? Chenong sighed and said. Yi Ernyang cried out involuntarily. I am afraid. Those children come to find me every day. It's fine if they find me, but don't pester my child. I have experienced that kind of hatred, that kind of pain. I know that they will not let us go. She pulled Xianxi's hand and said with difficulty, We can't live, but our child is still alive. He is so young, and he doesn't know martial arts. If others find him, what will he do? Now, as long as I die, the more miserable the better. The more miserable my death is, the less resentment they will have, and the safer my child will be. As long as he can live happily and peacefully, I don't want anything else. Xianxi said painfully, All of this is because of me. Ernyang, why do you have to suffer such pain? He looked up to the sky and let out a long cry. His voice was full of desolation and helplessness. How can my pain compare to that of those parents who have lost their children? It's not even 1/10,000th of the pain. This is the retribution I deserve. I was wrong, I was really wrong. People's hearts are made of flesh. I only hope that they will let go of this hatred for the sake of me dying without a complete corpse. This is my only wish. Yi Ernyang said with a smile. Xianxi raised his right palm and struck his left hand with the full force of the great Vajra palm. In an instant, his muscles and bones were crushed. He laughed and said, Ernyang, I will accompany you. Almsgiver Chun, can you recite a copy of the reincarnation scripture for those children? Yi Ernyang begged. Chenong nodded silently and sat cross-legged. Clear Sanskrit sounds echoed in the sky. Namo Amiba, Night Dota, Jidwa, Yi Shivering Night Hiamiba Pai. That day, the rain of blood fell for a whole night, and thunder rumbled unceasingly. A young monk looked at the sky curiously. Did he know that someone had redeemed a sin that could not be washed clean for him? The souls of two sinners would accompany each other, entangled on the river of 3 roads. Day and night, they would forever fall into the Avicii. All emotions are sinful. Chapter 80. In recent days, the lives of the Jianghu heroes became more and more difficult. The imperial court ordered the price of goods to be stabilized and the illegal guilds to be suppressed. With the forbidden martial hall as a sharp knife, the aristocratic families, officials, and nobles unscrupulously extended their claws into the territories of the Jianghu gangs. The heroes all felt that the government was becoming more and more lenient. On the one hand, it was to settle accounts with the gangs that had blood debts. On the other hand, it was the increasingly tough business families. Many rich families did not send their children to sects to learn martial arts. Instead, they sent them to the capital, the martial lecture hall, and the Yulin Royal Guards. The magnificent military of the Great Song could better protect their businesses. The masters of the Six Fan School also tightened their restrictions on the Jianghu. Together with the forbidden martial hall stationed in the prefectural cities, they strictly followed the 36 prohibitions on martial arts, forcing the Jianghu heroes to retreat. Many sects that were stationed in the past had to mix with the lower-class people and mix with the lower-class people. A crueler and more naked law of survival gradually spread in the Jianghu. The beggar sect, a big gang and sect, had a close relationship with the government. They were doing well in the Xi and Xixia. Their disciples colluded with the government and secretly formed their own family. They suppressed the lower class of the Jianghu, making it hard for them to breathe. People from all walks of life blended into the marketplace. The increasingly prosperous Xi port also became a place for the heroes of the world of martial arts. The sects, the world of martial arts, the court, and the order was broken. Gradually, a new stability and balance were formed. The Great Song dynasty was much more peaceful. The merchants and commoners could no longer hear the news of the heroes of the underworld. The shady knight-errant had also disappeared from the villages and small towns, gathering in the big cities along the coast. In these places where wealth and filth gathered, the Jianghu heroes lost their stable income. For wealth and status, they fought even more fiercely. The Jianghu seemed to have disappeared from the common people and hid in more secret places. The forbidden martial hall and the Sixth Fan School maintained this order. Without the harassment of the gangs, life in the countryside suddenly became much better. However, the places where wealth and business gathered became darker. Some simple and common martial arts became popular in the world. Not only did the army practice it, but the sects also practiced it diligently. The sects of the martial arts world, the imperial court of the Great Song dynasty, and the sects of the pugilistic world spread with the revolution. The strong preyed on the weak, and the atmosphere of the strong being respected gradually became the new order of the world of martial artists. The Walin formed by the sects, the Jianghu formed by the gangs, and the imperial court represented by the Sixth Fan School and the Forbidden Martial Art Hall experienced even more complicated changes. In the lives of ordinary people, Walin seemed to be gradually fading away. But in other places, an even bigger and more magnificent Jianghu was rising. At the moment when the huge ship rode the wind and broke through the waves, at the moment when the four masters of the Forbidden Martial Hall forced the Indian countries to submit and pay tribute, the flowing wealth of gold, silver, and bronze, and a vast land became the place where the people of Jianghu fought for their lives due to the flourishing of medicine and martial arts. The jet-black sect of the Martial Prohibition Hall and the rising Gongshu family of the Jianghu allowed huge mechanical fire ships to roam the four seas. After the Shaolin and the other sects were attacked by the Forbidden Martial Hall, they had to turn their attention to overseas. Nanyang, Xinzhou, Daguang, Shanghai, and Neon. Above the four seas, the flying fish flag of the Forbidden Martial Hall roamed freely. In the end, the bustling central plains were not as attractive as the chaotic overseas. After a few third-rate martial arts masters earned a family business in Nanyang and returned home in glory, many Jianghu people looked forward to the overseas flowing with wealth and rushed to the four seas. In a small town in the East Sea, Huang Chong looked at the report in his hand with a complicated expression. He sighed and said, after the governor left, Tong Guan and the other eunuchs took over the power and won the trust of the emperor. With the four masters, Jiu Maji, Murongbo, Duan Yanqing, and Xiao Yuanshan as accomplices, the Forbidden Martial Hall has become a tool for the imperial court to oppress Jianghu. He held the hand of a young child and boarded a large ship. Apothecary, come with me overseas and be an idle hermit in the smoke of war. Yanqing, come with me. On the battlefield of Song Liao, a young general pushed the woman in white in front of him away with determination. Sister Ing, it is my lifelong dream to restore Yin Yan. I will not leave at this time. Tongguan will not let you go. Yanqing, you have the Tao Te Ching written by the former governor of the Forbidden Martial Hall, Chenong. There's a saying in Jianghu, Tao Te Ching Prajna, whoever has one will be invincible. Tongguan is most afraid of Chenong. He will not let the Tao Te Ching fall into the hands of others. Governor Tong is righteous and has made countless contributions to the country. He destroyed Xixiao in 3 months and Tubo in 3 years. Now the war between Song and Liao is imminent. The Great Song dynasty will be realized in our hands. Sister Ing, don't believe the rumors in Jianghu. In the palace of Great Song, a young eunuch carefully opened the door of the library and stretched his body in. He hurriedly took off his hat, took out a book from inside, and placed it on the bookshelf. Under the dim light, the 4 words, Essence Talisman Immortal Dictionary, shone brightly. The young eunuch carefully took out a copy of the Prajna Heart Sutra along with a copy of the Grand View of Snakes and stuffed them into his hat. Then, he quickly retreated. A small snake crawled out of his sleeve and slipped in through the crack of the door. It coiled around the door and window. On the grassland, A young man carried Lu Nung on his back and galloped away. Behind them were dozens of soldiers from 6th Fan School. Hong Chi, go go. Go by yourself. That old scoundrel Tong Guan will not let me go. The commander's legacy absolutely cannot fall into his hands. This Prajnaheart Sutra hides a gargantuan secret, but I only have the first half. I've hidden the second half in the Imperial Library. Take it and run. Run. Lu Nung patted his body and jumped up angrily. He slapped his hands 3 times in the air towards the soldiers behind him. The soldiers who were chasing after him stood up straight. The arrowhead of the crossbow was aimed at his body. At this moment, a heroic voice shouted, "Little brother, what happened?" Xiao Feng pulled Hong Chi up on his horse. Seeing the soldiers behind him, he struck out with the dragon, subduing palm. He grabbed Lu Neng with one hand and carried Hong Chi with the other. While the soldiers were busy dispelling the palm force, he galloped away. "Ha! Little brother, we meet again. Since we are fated to meet, I'll ask Zhu to cook a bowl of beef soup for you later." In the Imperial Palace of Dali, Duan Yu picked up the memorial and frowned. A young and adorable boy was curiously looking at the memorial in his hand, but his hand was quietly reaching for the solitary Yang Sutra on the table. Duan Yu smiled as he picked him up and said, "Ji Xing, don't move. This is a gift from a very powerful person to Uncle." 10 years after Chenong left, in Jianghu, there was an endless stream of unique martial arts. The World Martial Arts General Outline and 100 schools of martial arts had long been published in the world. Countless people were practicing martial arts and breathing. In the Central Plains, dragons were hibernating. In the new continent, dragons and snakes were rising. A fierce era was coming. At this time, Chenong was already in the world of limitless. He stood on the high core energy building, staring at the cold blue energy light. Behind him, someone suddenly called him. "Doctor, the first platform is ready." Chenong glided to the first platform along the platform in the air. He saw a huge instrument placed in the center of the platform. The old doctor was panting and trembling. "Doctor, the evolution potion is ready. The stability of your genes has reached a very high level. You can already inject the evolution potion. Why is the cultivation progress of the blood orchid so slow? Is the new generation of evolution potion still inseparable from the blood orchid as a stabilizer?" Chenong frowned. The cultivation of the blood orchid requires an extremely precious natural substance that cannot be synthesized artificially. This is where its medicinal effect lies. We can't cultivate it on a large scale. Without this stabilizer, the mortality rate of the evolution potion will be astonishingly high, the old doctor replied. "How is the research on the interaction between qi and the blood orchid?" "It's going well. There are already evolvers who claim to have sensed qi. According to several blood samples brought back by the doctor, their lifespan may reach 300 years. The role of qi in promoting the efficacy of the evolution potion is too obvious." Chenong was lying on the test bench. The blood-red potion was injected into his body. The old doctor was surprised to find that Chun Eng's eyes had become dark blue. His body suddenly trembled violently, but it was quickly controlled by Chun Eng. The little things around him suddenly floated uncontrollably. The old doctor looked at this scene in shock and suddenly shouted to the door, "Quick, quick, level 4 supernatural phenomenon. Experiment Group 1 to record and Group 2 to observe." He hurriedly ran to Chun Eng's side. Chun Eng gently held up a piece of paper. A piece of white paper floated in the air. He quickly folded it in half, then pulled it up and folded it. Soon, a paper frog appeared in his palm. The floating objects around him suddenly fell. Only this paper frog, like a real frog, jumped as if it was alive. "Is the observation of the phenomenon obvious?" Chenong suddenly asked the experimenter next to him. "There is no physical quantity at all. We can't observe its reaction. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it at all. No, now I still suspect that there is something wrong with my eyes. The instrument can't be wrong. It's our eyes that are more easily deceived," a female researcher wearing glasses said in disbelief. "Maybe it's not a problem with the eyes or the instrument. Maybe it's our world that is hiding these things." Chenong accurately judged his own strength. Based on the numbers that everyone could understand, he only had about 5 kilograms of strength. He could only vaguely feel some subtle changes. However, under the heavy concealment, it was hard to see clearly the nature of the supernatural ability. This world was like a huge lock. It couldn't do anything to the internal force that originated from the body. However, it seemed to be effective against the laws of physics and the laws of nature. Chenong had a guess. Different laws and spatial environments might bring about some restrictions. Some abilities that were only effective in a certain world due to some special conditions couldn't be used in places where the environment was too different. There was no absolute truth in the universe. Science would always be relatively correct. Some things that were effective in the water would definitely be hindered on land. The internal combustion engine was a joke at the bottom of the sea. However, on land, it had triggered a revolution in power. In this way, if there was no tracing back to the truth, some abilities could only be effective in one world. Internal force seemed to be something that was closer to the essence. At least after so many worlds, it had always been very stable. The development of the brain was the same, or even closer. This should be related to the reason that they originated from the body. However, things outside the body didn't seem to be so simple. Perhaps I need a new laboratory. Chapter 81. The force of this world is boiling to an abnormal level. Chenong stood at the top of the Empire State Building and looked down at the bustling Vanity Fair. The bustling crowd played out wealth, prosperity, and evil throughout the night. A distorted world, Chenong concluded. It was hard to imagine that there was actually a world with such loose rules. In this world, the physical constants were so easy to pry open. The miracles of other worlds could probably be easily accomplished in this world. The science of martial arts was even more terrifying, although it was meaningless to other worlds. However, the observation of this movement also helped Chenong to understand the nature of the world more deeply. He gently waved in front of him, and the air distorted and reflected the light. The sky and the ground were filled with dense electromagnetic waves. In Chenong's eyes, it was like countless strange light rays. With a curl of his little finger, an electromagnetic wave was waved. In the distance, hundreds of millions of people put down the remote control in their hands in confusion and stared at the white snow on the TV. F***CK. What the hell is CBS doing? A black man cursed and changed the channel, but soon the snow spread like a virus. ABC, NBC, and even Fox were not spared. The black man angrily poked his head out of the window and was surprised to find that countless people were doing the same thing as him. At the same time, the snow spread like a virus throughout New York, the United States, America, and even the Earth. At first, it was the television network, then mobile phones, the internet, and radio stations. In the end, the whole world fell into a boiling panic. Hello, everyone. I'm at the Empire State Building, greeting everyone. A strange voice, in multiple languages, said this sentence at the same time. No matter where they were, a tall and straight shadow appeared on their screens, following his gaze and looking down at the world. This is a world full of miracles. Mutants, abilities, radiation monsters, super technology, superheroes. They are constantly subverting all scientific common sense, Chenong said with a smile. To be honest, I'm surprised that you can maintain a healthy view of science. Phenomena that are constantly subverting common sense and the laws of science appear in front of you, but you still insist on science and did not go crazy. That's amazing. Although he said this, Chenong did not show any expression of surprise on his face. Countless people on Earth didn't seem to agree with him. Countless people cursed the guy on TV with the most furious language. They had never thought that a mutant could be so arrogant. This was something that had never happened in the entire world. All the superheroes, the X-Men, set off for the Empire State Building. This is a madman, countless people said. A valuable person. The politicians saw the power of Chenong. Genius, guys. That brother is a genius. The mutants' brotherhood cheered. Hey, look here. Chenong heard the voice behind him. He turned around and saw the gray-haired lady stormward unleashing an intense air current with an unstoppable force towards Chunang's abdomen. But at this moment, Chunang seemed to be weightless. He floated gently with the wind like a leaf. His toes touched the air current and floated tens of meters with this force. A high-energy laser suddenly shot towards Chunang and was reflected back as if it had met a mirror. The X-Men looked at Chunang in surprise. Suddenly, the professor's voice came to their ears. "Be careful. His mind is very strong. I can't detect, sense, or affect him. This is a terrible opponent." Floating in the air, Chun-Ong smiled slightly. "Hello, Professor." The laser eyes lost control of his body, and a voice sounded in his heart. The professor's voice disappeared, and it only sounded again after a while. "Since Jean, you are the most terrible mutant I have ever seen. Child, why did you choose chaos and darkness?" "I have never chosen darkness. It cares for me, but I am dismissive of it," Chun-Ong said unhurriedly. "Slaughter and chaos, power and wealth, they are not what I pursue. I have been moving forward. I feel your heart. It is pure and firm. I can even feel your kindness to all things. Why is all this?" The professor was surprised. There are so many mutants in the world. They move the universe and have all kinds of magical abilities. Immortality, time stagnation, optical control, telepathy, but they are intoxicated with power and do not recognize and understand the world. Do you know what the nature of abilities is? I don't know what you think it is. I think abilities are the wealth given by God. He makes every child better. Abilities make the world a wonderful place, but human suspicion and doubt have changed everything. Child, you will aggravate this process. The professor sighed. Those who do evil will suffer the consequences of evil. Abilities are not power, and not a symbol of status. It is knowledge and discovery. When people with abilities use their abilities as power, they're destined to live in suspicion and fear. Because they are afraid, and even fanatically support this power. You think you're superior to others and have power, but you ignore evolution and accumulation. Human society is not nature. It is not a world of survival of the fittest. You think you're a new human being, but it is elimination. Your noble identity has been shattered as early as when you did not represent the progress of human productivity. Chun-Ong sighed. Humans are not animals. Power cannot eliminate everything. Our progress is the road of wisdom. Ability users have so many conveniences, but science, wisdom, economy, and contribution to society, you are far behind. You do not represent the forces of progress. The professor was silent. Yes, we're the lagging party. I regret the misinterpretation of the theory of evolution when I was young. Killing is not the path. Only progress represents everything. When the world's best doctors, scientists, workers, and farmers are all ability users, but when you use this power to contribute to humanity, the gap in killing will naturally be dissolved. I'll be proud of this. The power of Arcana may not lie in maintaining power, but in promoting progress. Child, you're the leader of the Arcanists. You are more suitable to lead the Arcanists than Magneto and I. Come with me. The professor sighed. You are the future, but I'm not an ability user. Chun-Ong smiled. It doesn't matter. The professor sincerely said. What you seek is world peace, not progress, but I'm different. What I seek is progress. We're not on the same path. Chun-Ong sighed. I will let the world see the power of wisdom. I will let them see how ability pushes the world forward. I hope it will help you. You don't need to take such a path at all. Progress with humanity. The professor anxiously said, I'm a traveler in time and space, a messenger of progress. I'm just a passerby in every world. I appreciate the scenery of different worlds. I listen to the voice of fate, and I announce the direction of progress. Let me witness the wonders of this world. No matter where you are, whether you're a hero or a criminal, I will bear witness to all of it. Chun-Ong raised his hand, and a bolt of lightning came down from the sky, striking Stormsword's body and sending her flying. Chun-Ong stood at the top of the Empire State Building and announced to the world, I am the king of the world. No, the professor anxiously said. Wolverine's eyes suddenly lost focus, and he stopped behind Chenong. You don't have to be like this. He can't hurt me. Chenong smiled. Wolverine shook off the effects of his daze and said in shock, Professor, what are you doing? Chun-Ang's eyes looked into the void, as if they were intertwined with each other. He smiled at the world's audience and said, Hello, everyone. This is the time for a science lecture. A stone floated slightly, and Chun-Ang held it in his hand. He smiled and said, The ability to move objects with one's mind. You call it telekinesis. Obviously, this is a very wrong concept. You can't deduce conclusions based on the results. This is a serious mistake in science. Moving objects with one's mind under the surface is the intelligence of a behemoth. Everyone take a look. This is how the average mutant fights. Chun-Ang smiled and swung the stone at the wall. The violent kinetic energy created a big hole in the wall. A direct method, but a pity it's too crude. Using telekinesis as an energy source is simply a joke. This world has never lacked energy sources. If it's used to control, everyone take a look. Chun-Ang smiled and floated a puddle of gasoline. Suddenly, it burned violently, and under invisible control, a huge amount of kinetic energy and heat energy blasted at the Empire State Building. Visible to the naked eye, the top of the building was melting and breaking. The top of the Empire State Building suddenly collapsed, but under Chun-Ang's control, it quietly turned into a pile of ruins. Unprecedented control appeared in front of the world. The calorific value of gasoline is about 1 liter of gasoline. If the density is 0, it can produce 212 by 10 carat 4 kilojoules of energy. What can this energy do? Forging metal, destroying boulders, these are all child's play. Only 1 liter of gasoline is needed to destroy the entire Hoover Dam. Lady Storm's word was almost trembling. She knew what kind of magic box Chun-Ang had opened. Before humans could control such a powerful force, they might have to destroy themselves first. As for Chun-Ang, he was still calmly narrating all of this. Controlling power is nothing. When you discover the wisdom behind the power, it will be very interesting. What is telekinesis? To me, it's a force field. To others, it might be a magnetic field, or maybe it's fluid control. Under one expression, there are countless possibilities. As for my telekinesis, it should be called gravity control. Chun-Ang floated a piece of gravel and said, The essence of gravity is that mass affects the folds of space. Therefore, my telekinesis has 3 points: mass, space, and energy. Unfortunately, we are on a huge mass, surrounded by countless folds of space. When wisdom and control reach a certain level, this is a nightmare. The folds of space drive the movement of objects, just like how denser objects will move to places with lower density. This is the essence of telekinesis. Energy is conserved. All telekinesis users rely on this huge mass under our feet. Then, what will happen when this kind of space control and influence reaches its peak? Chun-Ang said with a smile. Countless Americans suddenly exclaimed. They saw the Statue of Liberty being quickly destroyed into a pile of debris under the huge pressure. The Manhattan River soared into the sky, as if it had lost gravity. Hundreds of millions of tons of water rushed into the sea, showing a scene of destruction. To destroy the Statue of Liberty, I need a moment. To destroy Manhattan, I need 3 seconds. 3 minutes in New York, 3 hours in New York State, 3 days in America, and only 3 weeks in the whole world. Congratulations, in 3 days, an asteroid with a diameter of 800 meters will hit the Earth. In 3 weeks, it will be an asteroid with a diameter of 30 kilometers. In 3 months, you will be lucky enough to enjoy the scene of the Moon and Earth colliding. Humanity will be destroyed in 1 day. Now, whether you are a hero or a sinner, whether you are a mutant or an ordinary person, find me and stop me. The whole world suddenly fell silent. Chapter 82. Where is he now? Where is our army? General Vic angrily hammered the table. He pulled up the staff officer next to him and roared at him. Tell me, a mutant destroyed our Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building in front of the world, and now you actually let him stay in Manhattan. Am I crazy? Tell me, am I crazy, or are you a bunch of trash? He slammed the poor staff officer to the ground. Now, tell me, where is the army, and where is the enemy? General, the New York garrison has fallen. What are you trying to tell me? You used fallen? Are you trying to tell me that they were all killed by a mutated bastard? The furious Vic lifted the staff officer high into the air and stared at him with his bloodshot eyes. The staff officer's teeth were chattering, and his legs were shaking like sieves. He looked to the left with trepidation. Vic put down the staff officer and walked in the direction the staff officer was looking at. A gentleman with meticulously combed hair was quietly watching the screen as if he did not hear Vic's stormy roar. Vic threw a right hook, wanting to punch this damn woman into the screen. However, a big hand like an iron hoop grabbed his right fist. It was a big guy with a deadpan face firmly holding his hand. Only then did the guy slowly turn around. I admire you very much. In a word, those bastards. They are bastards, monsters deformed. They are the sins of the world. The gentleman raised his right hand, motioning the big man to let go of the general, and slowly said, But they are also a group of powerful monsters. General, take your little babies home. This is a battlefield. Please leave it to the professionals. We are professionals. Stryker. Vic's face turned red, and he gritted his teeth to retract his right hand that was squeezed into a ball. Really? Stryker tapped lightly on the screen, and a shaky picture flashed out. On the picture, an armored vehicle and a tank collided into a ball. The truck was torn into pieces in the galloping, and it fell on the road together with the soldiers on it. Countless heavily armed soldiers wailed as they were pressed to the ground by a huge gravity. The fighter disintegrated automatically in the air. The machinery destroyed itself into a pile of waste. The burning steel and gasoline converged into a huge fire tornado in the air, destroying all the nearby fortifications. The F-16 was like a fragile piece of paper, controlled by an invisible force and slammed into the ground. Vic did not even see a single enemy. Soldiers were injured by the automatic bullets in the magazine. Machines and vehicles were destroyed by their own power, and the weapons of the United States was proud or were self-destructing under the control of the enemy. Not a single one of them, not even a lone enemy. The soldiers panicked as they faced the sky, but their limbs were pierced by the falling bullets. Blood, fire, and iron twisted in the burning air. This is your performance. Facing them, you are as helpless as a child. Stryker sneered. You didn't even see him. In the process of looking for him, you destroyed yourself. Vic's face was livid. He held the table tightly, and his nails pierced into the solid wood table, staining his hands with blood, but he didn't seem to notice it and still stared at the screen. What's going on? Where's the battlefield assessment expert? Where's the intelligence team? I want all his information, everything. The staff officer stood up tremblingly and said in a nervous, trembling voice, Codex, nationality unknown, age unknown, identity unknown. According to his behavior habits, the possibility of him being Chinese is 80%. There is no information about his behavior. When he appeared for the first time, he made a live broadcast that shocked the earth in front of the world. His ability is psychokinesis. According to the classification, it should be the gravitational control in psychokinesis. Omega level mutant. According to the data, his ability operation accuracy is nanometer level. According to him, he has the power to pull down asteroids and destroy the Earth. With a bang, the staff officer covered his face and squatted down. Vic put down the teacup in his hand and said angrily, What else did you find out besides the unknown? Who the hell knows about these things? How did he destroy our army? What is the weakness of his ability? How do we kill him? His family, friends, country? Is he a ghost that appeared out of thin air? Asteroids are not enough to destroy the Earth. At most, they can destroy human beings. Stryker said leisurely, Your information is already most of it. Vic, we know nothing about him. He has no trace of his existence in this world. But we know that he is a weapons expert, proficient in most of our standard weapons. understanding every parameter of mechanical structure. He is a physics expert. He can exert a very small force to destroy a behemoth in operation. He is an energy expert, a chemistry expert, a high-energy physics expert. And more importantly, he is also a nuclear expert. Don't tell me he can synthesize nuclear bombs. It's not that amazing. But if he has nuclear materials, it is enough to have a violent fission reaction on its own, and our technology can't stop it. Stryker sighed. The power of wisdom and science, the great power of mankind. Although he is a mutant, he is more like a human than any other mutant. Other mutants are just beasts. Only he is a hunter. You mean any nuclear power plant on our land can become a nuclear bomb at any time? Big beads of sweat dripped from Vic's forehead. What are we waiting for? This is a thug, an unprecedentedly dangerous lunatic. Wait, are you sure about all this? How do you think the Washington Aircraft Carrier Group, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, was destroyed? Stryker laughed. I saw the Washington Aircraft Carrier Group in the dock the day before yesterday. Stryker, don't try to lie to me. Vic stared at Stryker and said fiercely, "Take a look." Stryker handed him a document with the double-headed eagle top secret mark and said while facing the screen with his hands behind his back, "The huge heat of the nuclear reaction destroyed the core of the aircraft carrier, and what is lying in the dock now is a pile of scrap iron. Our pride, in the hands of X, is a nuclear bomb that can be detonated at any time. He can easily destroy all aircraft carrier groups, and the Department of Defense has issued strict requirements that all nuclear weapons are not allowed to face X. If this is the case, why didn't he destroy the Washington Aircraft Carrier Group?" Vic couldn't believe it, and he questioned. Stryker was silent and said after a while, "Professor X, that mutant bastard, proposed a possibility. He thinks that X is promoting peace between mutants and humans. He is urging the world to face the power and value of mutants and to reintegrate mutants into human society. Promote by destroying the Earth? Do you want to promote it by killing?" Vic laughed wildly. "Isn't war the biggest impetus for ethnic integration? In the face of such a crisis, mutants and humans can only unite and communicate with each other. The power of mutants makes the opposition tremble, and those who support them cheer as heroes. There is a great possibility of his behavior." Stryker said indifferently, "You mean we are facing a saint in human history? Jesus?" Vic laughed. He felt that there was nothing more ridiculous than this. He pointed to the battlefield on the screen, pointed to the flying bullets, and said, "Are you sure Jesus did this? He is Satan. Without him, why do people look forward to heaven?" Stryker smiled and said, "Most of the soldiers are just injured. The soldiers you see who are really dead have a low mortality rate. To the mutated humans, he is Satan. However, I'm not a lamb waiting for the arrival of the gospel. Those bastards, their only value is to lie on the experiment table. Those monsters, their only fate will be destruction. So find him and kill him, no matter what he wants to do." So, General Vic narrowed his eyes. "So, let the professionals come and let the hounds behind me show some color." Stryker looked at the men in black behind him and sneered, "Go, my weapons." In Manhattan, there were beacons everywhere, and the unburned fireworks were filled with black smoke. The once most prosperous center of New York was ruined like a huge ruin. The once bustling crowd and elites are now only a few wild dogs and carnival gangsters playing in this city. A huge steel structure hovered in the center of Manhattan. These TV towers and steel frames gathered from all directions, twisting into a huge steel throne on the original site of the Empire State Building. Chun-Ong stood at the peak and looked into the endless distance. "It's finally here," Chun-Ong sighed. The invisible gravity, like a giant spider web, stretched across the entire territory of the United States and continued to spread to other areas. All the mass that could affect gravity was reflected by this giant web. Through Chun-Ong, it was connected to the internet of electromagnetic waves that stretched across the sky. Now, Chun-Ong uses himself as the hub of the global network. Through the wireless network, he borrows the infinite computing capacity of the global computer to monitor every trace of the world. Chun Ong is quickly simulating Professor X's telepathic ability. He is learning and observing the world. In the distance, Chun Ong clearly sensed that several human bodies with strange magnetic fields were approaching here quickly. Striker, don't let me down. Chapter 83. This is a war. Even if the other party is only one person, it is still a war between him and the United States. Striker sneered and slapped the button in his hand. He will soon know how terrifying the war potential of a country is. This is not the kind of small action before. Now, let's abolish his intelligence ability. The alloy door behind him slowly opened, revealing a bustling and noisy crowd. Hundreds of men and women in military uniforms screamed and ran in front of the computer. Countless people flowed in an orderly and organized manner, acting for a war goal. X's physical analysis report is in file number 1, and the psychological analysis report is in file number 2. The behavioral expert group, please go to analysis room number 1, and the psychology group, please go to intelligence center number 2. Manhattan Terrain Structure Mission. Transfer data to support 3D modeling and request the meteorological data of the last month from the Weather Bureau. Stryker smiled and took Vic into the command room. In front of the huge central supercomputer, a black old man bent over and curled up on the medical bed. Electronic Will, the best hacker in the world. Before that person appeared, he was the king of the global network. His mutated ability is Electronic Command, which can give computers artificial intelligence. Now he maintains the union of 23 supercomputers in the United States. We have been resisting that bastard attacks on the network. Now is the time to fight back. In the 23 underground bases in North America, all operations are manually completed, and the huge central computer flashed with countless faint blue lights. Under the command of Electronic Will, countless data swarmed up from the world's network, impacting Chun Ang's Skynet architecture. In the sky, a Hercules formation flew toward Manhattan. When they were 5 kilometers away from the Iron Throne, they slowly opened their trunks, and the containers weighing hundreds of tons fell out with a loud bang, turning into piles of waste on the ground. Crimson molten iron gushed out of the sealed boxes, flowing on the streets, and wherever it passed, everything melted away. A black-clothed man stood in front of the molten iron, allowing the scarlet-hot liquid to flow over his head. He was like snow under the scorching sun, disappearing without a trace. Everything had melted cleanly, but the scarlet iron seemed to have its own will. The dark red molten iron became scarlet red again, surging towards the steel throne. Liquid Body, Earth King, Deadpool, Phantom Master, Steel Man. Chenong smiled faintly, revealing his white teeth. Countless distorted gravitational forces surged all over his body like the ocean before a storm. They were slowly brewing and waiting to be unleashed. His feet hovered slightly above the ground, his eyes filled with joy and anticipation. The fluid was the man in black who had just disappeared. He could merge with any fluid and turn any substance he came into contact with into a fluid. The surging molten iron melted the concrete, melted Manhattan, and flowed toward the Iron Throne. Earth King and Steel Man rushed out from a building on the side. The Earth King stepped on the flowing concrete. The surging soil, stones, and cement wrapped him up. He stood on the ground and became one with the earth. Even gravity could not destroy this whole body. The Steel Man stood on his shoulder, the alloy gradually covering the surface of his body. The King of the Earth raised his hands and held the Illusion Master in his hands. An integrated energy field immediately covered the fragile Illusion Master. The King of the Earth's ability was to assimilate energy fields. He stood on the ground and had endless power, just like Achilles. The torrent of steel and concrete passed through the streets and overflowed the tall buildings. Under the gaze of Chun-Ong, it slowly flowed toward him. But at this moment, a strange distortion suddenly appeared behind Chun-Ong. A katana, at a speed that was truly beyond the visual, stabbed at Chun-Ang's back. Deadpool's red shadow rushed out of the void, and the flowing sword light gently wiped Chun-Ang's shadow. The sharp and invincible sword light, made of adamantium, was enough to cut through flying bullets, but it flowed through Chun Ang's shadow as if it was nothing. A voice sounded behind him. "Are you a warrior?" Chun Ong stood behind Deadpool, holding an egg-thick steel bar in his right hand and gently pointing it on Deadpool's spine. An invisible tremor force penetrated into Deadpool's spine, destroying his ability to move. "Sorry, I forgot you can't speak now." Although Chun Ong said this, there was no apology in his hand. The steel bar lifted Deadpool high, and Chun Ong turned his right hand and gently removed another alloy sword from Deadpool's back. His thumb wiped the edge of the blade, and the bright cold light illuminated his eyes. Deadpool tilted his head and made an innocent expression. On the steel bar, his body disappeared without a trace. Chun Ong faced the sun, stretched out his left hand, and made a strangling gesture. "You should learn physics." If your physics teacher was still alive, he would definitely be willing to talk to you about the close relationship between space and gravity, so that you wouldn't do something stupid like space jump in front of Gravity Master. Countless tiny gravitational threads wrapped around his left hand and spread into the void. This was the fold of space, and a huge funnel seemed to appear in the void. The mouth of the funnel was on Chun Ang's left hand. Chun Ong grabbed Deadpool's neck, pinched the back of his head, and slammed him straight into the steel wall. The protruding steel thorns pierced Deadpool's limbs, and a steel all entwined with electric current pierced his spine. The jumping electric light destroyed Deadpool's nerves, causing him to convulse violently. Space jump? Now I could do it too. Chun Ong took a step forward, and the dense gravitational threads twisted the space into a huge fold. Chun Ong imitated Deadpool's actions, passing through the warp of space step by step. With a flash, he stepped on the top of the steel throne, and the next moment, he appeared on the sea dozens of miles away. One step at a time, Chun Ong gently waved the long blade in his hand. The blade light flashed in the void, and the steel man staggered. In front of the Earth King and the Phantom Master, his head fell down. In the huge steel torrent, at the red-hot core, a molten iron with human facial features controlled the direction of the torrent. In midair, a blade light suddenly divided him into two, then a second, a third, and countless dense samurai sword shadows cut the molten iron into tens of thousands of pieces. The molten iron stagnated for a moment, then gathered together, wrapped in a fluid and rushed out of the torrent, taking over the steel man's head. A layer of thick liquid suddenly appeared on the wound of the alloy head, and the fluid connected the head to the steel man's body. Hearing the steel man's creaking sound, he twisted his neck and said stiffly, "Thanks to you, fluid." "Deadpool, you idiot." The fluid sneered, and he shouted into the void, "Even if it is adamantium, physical force can't hurt me. You may have some ability, but you should never have provoked me." "Really?" Chun Ong appeared behind him. "Are you going to cut me? Come on, come on." The fluid bared his chest and said conceitedly, "Insert your alloy blade into me. Hit me with your fists, or raise your big head and hit me." The fluid pointed to the huge steel throne and said sarcastically, "What's the use of this thing to hit people?" Chun Ong looked curious, and he asked, "In your impression, is a physics force?" The huge steel throne slowly rotated, and the three huge steel frames flashing with blue lightning were densely covered with electric currents. Chun Ong stood in front of the fluid body and said to the huge steel monster, "Do you think this thing is used to hit people? I'm not Magneto. I don't like to use a pile of scrap iron to do work." Chun Ong had already stepped on the throne in the next moment. A huge electric current passed through the center of the throne, and the mysterious blue lightning wrapped around the entire throne. The ground began to tremble slightly, and immediately the fluid found that he seemed to be unable to control his body, and the molten iron solution floated up irresistibly. "It seems that not many of the mutants have gone to school," Chun Ong said to the professor in his heart. "They are so superstitious about their own power that they have long forgotten to use their own brains. It seems that they can only smash things around, just like fighting with their muscles, crudely using their abilities. They have long forgotten that humans have not only relied on muscles to fight hundreds of years ago. Call the X-Men. The professor sighed. War is not the solution to the problem, and killing is the same. Maybe you are right, but no matter what, I will stop you. X-Men, let's go. Above the steel throne, the violent magnetic field made all the metal objects in the Manhattan area levitate. Shannon watched all this. He looked back at Deadpool, who was trembling on the steel cone, and smiled slightly. General, the analysis report is out. That's not a simple building. The staff officer staggered to Stryker and Vic, and the hot-tempered Vic grabbed him and shook him like a chicken. Look at those electric currents. Everyone knows that it's not a simple building. Get to the point. That's an electromagnetic generator. The powerful kinetic energy of the water flow in the Manhattan River is converted into a magnetic field and electric current through the generator. Now, tens of millions of kilowatt-hour of electric current are generated there every moment, and this building appeared 2 days ago. Stryker grabbed the report from the staff officer's hand and calmly analyzed. Now, we are facing a master of gravity with a powerful energy backing. In a powerful electromagnetic field, the body composed of iron flow was subjected to tremendous pressure from all directions. He did not even dare to transform into other forms. As long as he left the iron flow state, the huge dynamic potential energy of the remaining iron blocks would crush him into pieces. Under the gaze of Chun-Ong, the fluid was crushed into an iron ball by the huge magnetic field suspended over the throne. The remaining molten iron lost the control of the fluid and gradually solidified. Under the control of the electromagnetic field, it accelerated and rotated. Huge kinetic energy was accumulated in the iron bomb. The hundreds of tons of iron blocks exuded crimson heat in the magnetic field. This huge cannonball, under the control of Chun-Ong, was aimed at the Earth King. The largest electromagnetic cannon in human history had exploded in Manhattan. Stryker felt a violent vibration coming from under his feet. In front of everyone's incredulous eyes, Manhattan set off a torrent of millions of tons of earth and rocks. The powerful shock wave shook half of New York. The huge wave of soil was even thrown thousands of meters into the air, and the entire Americas could feel the tremor under their feet. Half of Manhattan Island disappeared in front of everyone's eyes, leaving the world with a brand new bay and a rain of mud and rocks in the sky. Chun-Ong stood on the steel throne and looked in front of him. There, the Earth King stood there intact. Chun-Ong smiled slightly and greeted him. Chapter 84. The world unfolded in front of Chun-Ang's eyes. The breeze caressed his face, the slightest reaction of his skin, the cold steel under his feet, and the sound of electric currents jumping in his ears. Everything was real. Standing opposite Chun-Ong, in front of Earth King, there was another Chun-Ong, like a mirror. That Chun-Ong took a step forward with a smile. Suddenly, his body rippled like water. His face twisted, and when it reappeared, it was the appearance of Professor X. Surprised? The voice that came out of Professor X's mouth was Magneto's. Professor X got up from the wheelchair again and said with a maniacal smile, "Do you believe that humans are such fragile things? They rely on their own senses to understand and observe the world. This kind of true cognition is so fragile. Their thoughts, character, cognition, and everything in their personality depend on this fragile, ridiculous, and false sense of perception. And the information that shapes a person's inner being is the information they receive. The source of this information is limited to the human senses. Our understanding of the world and our personality are gradually completed from the information we see and hear. Conversely, information can shape a person, and naturally, it can also destroy a person, as long as they are smart enough." Chun-Ong laughed. "You are a smart person, so you are a master of illusion, not a manipulator of the five senses." "You are absolutely right," Jason said crazily. "I am a master of illusion manipulation. I am a master of psychological manipulation. I shape those people into what I want to see. I am their master." He retracted his trembling hand and looked at Chun-Ong. "You are a different person. Among all the people I have met, you are the only one who uses these strange things to perceive the world." Jason, who was disguised as a professor, sighed with emotion. I think since you know me, you should understand me. My father, huh? He is also a fool. He tried to shape me into a weapon to control me. But there is a problem. Who created his extremes, his madness, and his ridiculous thoughts? It's you, Chenong said indifferently. Of course it's you. His madness and anxiety, his hatred and extremity, he's your most successful work. You must be very satisfied because you didn't manipulate a person, but created a personality, molded a person, his hatred and love, his persistence and dreams. This feeling must be very good. It's wonderful. His madness, his incompatibility with this world, his complicated feelings towards me. What a great and contradictory existence he is. Talent is the most beautiful work of art. The great, the despicable, the infatuated, the unforgettable, these were originally the work of God. Now, another great artist has participated in this process. Jason's voice suddenly became low. He is my father. He gave me life. He created me. I am his father, and I have recreated him. What a wonderful cycle. Jason looked at his hands in a daze. He waved his hand to grab the sun and shouted, I am the sun. Chun-Ong saw the sun in the sky melt and fall, merging with Jason, who was disguised as Professor X, turning into a man of light without a face and silhouette. Reality and illusion, fake and real, the brain in a vat, the master of illusion. Chun-Ong sighed. I thought you were a scientist. I didn't expect you to be an artist. Chun-Ong was a little disappointed. Although Jason had truly deeply developed his ability, it seemed to be completely different from what he expected. Chun-Ong hoped that Jason would be a calm, objective psychologist and a master of crime who manipulated human nature. Through the study of the human heart and human nature, he destroyed people with his senses and reshaped them. Unfortunately, he only saw a lunatic who used his ability as a drug. He regarded madness and madness as a matter of course, just like psychotropic drugs. He used his ability crudely. He did not explore the mysteries of the human brain, nor did he delve into the human heart that even Chun-Ong was obsessed with. Instead, he used madness and chaos to infect others. That's why people shouldn't dabble in art. Once they dabbled in art, they would become useless. At least half of them would go crazy. Once it was traced back to philosophy, the whole person would go crazy. Jason, your view is very interesting, but unfortunately, Chun-Ong said lightly, if it's just like this, you could be called an illusion clown, but you don't deserve the title of master of illusion. Jason's voice became silent. The sunlight in the air suddenly became gloomy. A hoarse voice, Jason's real voice, echoed in the air. I thought you could appreciate my art. Now it seems that you only deserve to be my work of art. The light gradually disappeared from the world. Sulfur and flames began to roast this space. Chun-Ong raised his head. His eyes were as calm as a deep blue ocean. Around him, countless madness, bloodthirst, cruelty, darkness and terror that struck the depths of people's hearts were ignored by him. The scorching lava, the endless abyss, the pain, the screams, everything seemed to be real, but it didn't arouse the slightest reaction from Chun-Ong. He could still control his body and actions. It was as if everything didn't exist in his eyes. He resolutely walked in one direction. Jason's voice suddenly came with a trace of madness and surprise. How did you overcome your subconscious? A human's consciousness wasn't enough to control the body. Most of the activities were done by the subconscious. Even if you knew that it was an illusion, your subconscious could still be deceived. When you felt pain, you would withdraw your hand. When you felt stimulation, you would react. This wasn't even controlled by your consciousness. When you felt the burning heat and pain, your subconscious would feel that your body was injured and have difficulty breathing. This was an instinctive reaction of the human body. It wasn't something that couldn't be controlled by your consciousness. Now that Chun-Ong had walked through the lava, stepped into the sky, and allowed the world to change, his body didn't react at all. This wasn't normal at all. I don't have a subconscious. Chun-Ong laughed. Impossible? It's impossible for humans to not have a subconscious. Jason's voice had a rare trace of anxiety. He could accept death, but he couldn't accept his own failure. Once he immersed himself in the feeling of omnipotence, he couldn't accept the feeling of helplessness in the past. Nothing is impossible. Once your consciousness can control your body, your breathing, reactions, processing those complicated information, and even control those complicated biological instincts, is there still a need for the subconscious to exist? Chenong laughed. The human mind is very interesting. Some things in the mind, the information in the subconscious, are very interesting. Chenong gently waved his hand, and the world fell into darkness again. How is this possible? How did you control this world? Jason was completely shocked. He was like a child who had been barged into his forbidden zone. Seeing his secret base being barged in by an adult, he realized that his territory had been invaded and his fantasies had been trampled. The helplessness and fear he felt. Chenong wasn't in the mood to take care of Jason's fragile mind. He let the world fall into darkness, and when it lit up again, he was already standing on the steel throne in front of Jason. In reality, Jason was just a pale, skinny young man. His face was pale, and he trembled as he looked at Chenong. Chenong took a step forward and came before him. Jason lost his balance and fell to the ground. In the human subconscious, there is a collection of information-like concepts. What is a concept made up of? Chenong looked at Jason and smiled. It's some attributes that humans can feel, such as weight, color, shape, smell, touch, and texture. These things form a concept. As for the truth that the concept represents, it's even greater. In the places that we can't see, in the real world, there will always be a great truth. After saying so much, there's only one meaning. That is, our concept and understanding of things is only one side of the truth. Obviously, Jason, you can see and control my brain, but in the field of the brain, you're still far from it. You can only use your concept to describe my world. Chenong gently tapped Jason's head and smiled. Now, take a look at the world in my eyes, my understanding and concept of the world. Ah! Jason felt a sharp pain in his head, and countless complex information poured into his mind. He saw the world unfolding infinitely, one by one, warped gravitational folds and space distortion all over the world. He saw the Earth condensed in a small point and expanded infinitely. Every inch of space was in that point and everywhere. Chenong took him and stepped into that point. They appeared in front of Stryker and took off his hat. They appeared in front of Magneto and left a piece of iron particle on the plastic. They appeared in front of the professor. The professor nodded gently to Chenong. They were in the White House, at the Pyramid, at the Great Wall, at the Red Square, at the Eiffel Tower, and at the Colosseum. At the same time, in countless locations, Chenong unfolded the entire space dimension and appeared in countless places with Jason at the same time. And at the same time, these places collapsed into a small point. The next moment, they had returned to the steel throne. This place has already changed. Countless magical and unspeakable existences are spread throughout every inch of space. Jason can see waves of fluctuations filling the space around him. A special will is fighting with Chunang's will in these ubiquitous fluctuations. He saw countless information carried in the fluctuations. Chapter 85. Honey, we're working overtime today. X is on target. Illusion Master has failed. The military has sealed off Manhattan and refused to divulge any information about the mutant. According to sources, the military's operation in Manhattan has failed miserably. We don't know what's inside. Electromagnetic waves drifted in the sky. Jason could see the information they carried. Countless strange waves reflected the countless things in the world that couldn't be seen or felt. Jason could even see strange life forms living in the same space, but they couldn't touch the human world on Earth. The two worlds were once so close, but they couldn't feel each other. A creature with an uncertain shape passed through the body of a human on Earth. The two didn't notice each other at all. Countless worlds overlapped in space. It's amazing, isn't it? Chenong stood beside him and looked at this strange world. He smiled and said, "Visible light waves are electromagnetic waves of 0.3 micrometers. Infrared and ultraviolet are worlds that humans can't see with their eyes, but they can still be observed with instruments. But how many worlds do humans know? Less than 3 in 10,000. The world I see is already 100 times bigger than the world that humans can perceive. Electromagnetic waves can be seen, radiation can be seen, space can be seen, gravity can be seen, and there are countless worlds that can't be detected at all. These worlds that can't be discovered have another name: dark matter. This is the world in my eyes. This is the concept in my eyes. If you want to deceive me, please don't use those low-end attributes, like a pixel game, to deceive my senses. Chenong looked at Jason and sighed. He raised his right palm and smiled indifferently. Suddenly, a distorted air appeared in his palm, and a dot of blue gradually expanded. Color. It was either strong or light blue, twisting in Chun Ang's hand. Shape. The outline of a flower appeared in the blue. It was so real that no clues could be seen. Quality. The blue flower fell into Chun Ang's palm. Texture. Chun Ang handed the flower to Jason. Jason felt that it was almost real to the touch. Temperature. Jason felt that the flower in his hand had a real breath of life. Sound. The wind blew through the flower and the sound of petals dancing. Smell. The smell of sunshine and the fragrance of flower petals. Taste. Jason plucked the petal and chewed it carefully. A bitter taste filled the tip of his tongue. There are also things that you can't see, hear, or touch. Jason did not notice any change in the petals. Is what you see the truth? Humans live in a world of senses. They are easily deceived, changed, and controlled. On the other side of the earth, countless people cried out in alarm. They pointed at the rising sun and looked at everything that had appeared under the sunlight again. The moon and the sun appeared in the same sky. Impossible, impossible. Jason picked up the flower uncontrollably and looked around crazily. He grabbed his hair and knelt on the ground in despair, screaming miserably. Chun Ang blended into the wind, but his voice resounded throughout the world. I deceived your eyes. I deceived your ears. I deceived all your senses. I deceived your understanding of the world, and even your ability was deceived. I created your world. I changed your personality. Jason felt a deep darkness surrounding him. He passed through the darkness and came to the outside world. It was an ordinary world. In the distance, the crater of the electromagnetic gun was still emitting green smoke. The Earth King struggled with difficulty. Below him was the Steel Man with a metallic luster. When they saw Chenong, the Earth King roared and raised his hand to grab the Steel Man beside him. He threw it out with all his might. Sharp blades appeared on the Steel Man's hands and feet, and it shot towards Chun Ang's head. But everything froze in an instant. Jason saw himself raising his hand, and his ability was silently released towards the Steel Man and the Earth King, changing his 5 senses, deceiving his subconscious, and even his ability. The Steel Man turned into a steel statue, and the Earth King turned into a stone man. They froze at that moment, and their abilities became their ubiquitous restraints from their arms and weapons. They soberly felt their bodies stiffen little by little, felt their abilities lose control, and roared and solidified into statues. Chun Ang's voice clearly came from his ear. I am the Illusion Master. Weapon X, total destruction. Stryker's face was pale, and the hat on his head disappeared without a trace. Together with General Vic, he trembled as he looked at the picture on the screen, watching Deadpool twitching in the electric current, the struggling fluid in the steel ball. The Earth King solidified into a stone statue. The Steel Man turned into a large iron block, and finally, the Illusion Master crawling in front of Chenong. The throne was slowly lifted, and Chun Ang stood at the peak. His eyes crossed the endless sky and ocean and looked at Magneto hundreds of miles away. Magneto looked at the metal suspended in front of him and nodded with a smile. He took a little body tissue from the Steel Man and also collected a little blood from the Earth King, as well as fluid. Deadpool, the throne behind him, suddenly opened a door, which was neatly placed inside. The Manhattan Scientific Research Agency's precision instruments were neatly placed inside. The invisible force field hand grabbed the 5 Weapon X's and entered, and the door closed with a bang. The most cutting-edge scientific instruments and the advanced science and technology of the Star Wars world, plus the magical abilities and laws of this world, Chunong shuttled through various instruments, trying to replicate the black technology of the Star Wars world, the activated metal cells of the Steel Man, the cellular magnetic field of the Earth King, the brain secretions of the Illusion Master, the amazing vitality of Deadpool's cancer cells, and the fluid anthropomorphic cells. Of course, there is also the anti-gravity engine. Even without developed material processing technology, under the observation of Chunong's gravity control ability, he still replicated a shrunken version of the anti-gravity engine. On the other side, Stryker sat limply on the ground, shivering. He slumped decadently in the corner, and there was only a blank look in his eyes. Suddenly, the door opened in front of him, and the professor in a wheelchair slid in, smiling at the pale Stryker. "Your hat." The professor put Stryker's hat on him. Stryker trembled a few times and quickly took a few steps back. His face was as gloomy as death. "Do you think you can beat me like this?" "Professor, I will not let you go. I will not let any mutant bastard go." "Shut up." The laser eyes grabbed him fiercely and slammed him against the wall. "Red-eyed bastard. Coward," Stryker said frantically. "Do you dare to take off your glasses and let out your two light bulb eyes? Come on. I will kill you." The laser eyes pressed his hand on his glasses angrily. "Scott, stop." The professor stopped the laser eyes and came to Stryker, sighing, "Even if I don't agree with you, and even hate you, but our purpose is the same, to stop X's behavior. The Department of Defense thinks that we want to cooperate with you, and I need you to do one thing." "Hee hee. What is it?" Stryker sneered. "Stop them from releasing Magneto. The Mutants Brotherhood will not go against X. They will only unite together. It will not work for the Department of Defense to count on them to kill each other." The professor said sincerely. "Okay, I will." Stryker unexpectedly agreed. "But I have a request," he said cunningly. "X-Men, go and catch that man. That's why we are here." The professor sighed. The research on living metal cells went smoothly beyond Chunong's imagination. The knowledge and technology of nanometal robots, metal viruses, and iron-based cosmic life of the Star Wars world were used by Chunong to transform this metal cell. A little silver-gray metal life appeared under Chunong's test bench. Behind him, there were countless test benches working under the control of the gravitational force field. 5 weapons X were sent to the injection table, and the red evolution serum was pushed into their bodies little by little. Chunong, who controlled their personalities, did not care and allowed them to evolve their abilities. Professor X looked at the laboratory in front of him that was bustling with people again and sensed that Magneto's brainwaves had reappeared in New York, and he couldn't help but sigh deeply. In Chunong's heart, a sentence suddenly appeared. "I promise to cooperate with you. You won't regret it." Chapter 86. On the experiment table, 5-weapon XS waited for the injection of the evolution potion. Evolution and longevity were the 2 miracles of the blood orchid. The genes of the Titan serpents showed that they had lived for a long time. Each of them was more than 200 years old, and there were even pythons that had lived for thousands of years. But what Chunong paid more attention to was the atavism of their genes. The genes in their bodies were extremely close to their ancestor, the Titan serpent. This discovery directly promoted Chunong's further research on the blood orchid. The effect of the blood orchid potion in alleviating aging lay in its unique effect on human genes, the optimization and recombination of excess genes. Chunong discovered the secret and developed the potion in 2 directions. On the one hand, the development of the longevity potion, and on the other hand, the development of gene optimization. This was the follow-up series of the blood orchid potion, the longevity potion, and the evolution potion. This blood-red solution was exceptionally precious because it required the natural ingredients of the blood orchid. If the longevity potion was the gentle development of the blood orchid's medicinal properties, then the evolution potion was the complexity and maximization of the blood orchid's gene optimization and change effect. The giant serpent might be able to atavism, but Chunong did not want to be an ape man. The evolution potion was extremely complex, full of unknown and uncontrollable changes. It must be thoroughly studied and controlled in order to be used in a controllable manner. The path of evolution of other creatures was an unknown gamble. Change, then filter, eliminate, or adapt. This was the path of evolution. With the cruelest natural selection, the winner in unknown changes was selected. Nature was like this. Natural selection created all kinds of extremely perfect creatures, including great existences like humans. However, in the invisible place, cruel elimination was also happening. The bones of Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, and other eliminated people could only be in museums for people to visit. The evolution potion was natural selection, bloody cruelty and directness. This was the path of evolution. But this was not Shenang's path. He did not like to leave all choices to nature. He was more willing to learn, research, and explore the mysteries of genes and evolution. In the intricate and astronomical genetic code of humans, he wanted to find its laws and secrets behind it. He was a Taoist, and his path was to study and research. That was why he injected the evolutionary elixir and used his powerful control over his body in an overclocked state to control this process. His genes, changes, and recombination were restricted by him. He was like a beginner chi cultivator who only followed his body to do the most basic breathing and sensing. Chun-Ong used his gentle inner force to influence the life force origin and slowly walked along the path that the predecessors had walked. The transformation of chi to the source of life, coupled with the optimization of the evolution potion, could be said to be astonishing progress. However, the mutation of the original genes of the evolution potion seemed unbearably slow. The only Esper ability, gravity control, was more of a product of the development of the brain, while the genes only provided a powerful body to carry it. Chunang's body had super speed, super strength, and super senses, but it was only limited to the limit of a living creature. It was not a very excellent evolution ability, and compared to the temperature control, environment adaptation, and telepathy of the experimental evolvers, it seemed a little backward and clumsy. But everything was just the beginning. The basic physiological optimization was only the first step of evolution. Chunang's path of deciphering and researching human genes, the astronomical genetic code, was like a peerless martial art, and only when it was deciphered step by step could Chunang embark on the path of evolution that was suitable for him, the path of cultivation. X-Men, the X-gene, Esper abilities and technology, physics and biology, the extremely fragile laws of physics and the energy space, the world that could be easily moved, the laws that were extremely loose for Esper abilities, and the mysterious mutated genes. This was a world of Esper abilities and evolution, a treasure land for Chun-Ang's advanced physics and genetic research. The blood-red evolution serum disappeared bit by bit inside the steel man's body. The metallic skin on his skin began to tremble violently like water ripples, squirming and trembling. In his body, a transformation that was reborn was happening intensely. The genetic chromosomes in the cell nucleus suddenly collapsed, and under the effect of the serum, they were rapidly recombined. Some redundant and useless genes underwent obvious changes and mutations during this recombination, and some brand new gene fragments began to play a role. Chun-Ong controlled the experiment platform, providing nutrients and metal materials to the Steel Man, promoting the stable and continuous occurrence of this transformation. War was raging inside the Steel Man's body. The cells that were undergoing complex changes were constantly recombining the genes, increasing in value and strengthening madly. The surface of the Steel Man's body swelled visibly, and crimson heat seeped out from the cracks in his skin. The surrounding metal quickly melted and entered his body. Some of the cell nuclei had different metal components combined to form brand new metal cells. New alloys that could make people go crazy were born in the Steel Man's body, and then they were rapidly eliminated. Many brand New alloy cells with physical properties that could make material scientists go crazy were rapidly eliminated, leaving only the metals that were most suitable for the human body. Countless metal cells were born, evolved, and eliminated. All kinds of incredible black materials rapidly appeared and rapidly disappeared. Superconducting metal cells without resistance. Magma metal cells with extremely strong heat conductivity. Gravity-free metal cells with their own magnetic fields. Liquid metal cells with excellent physical properties at room temperature. These black technologies were produced by an extreme coincidence, and then Chen-Ong extracted them as samples before they rapidly disappeared. At the same time, there were hundreds of millions of metal cells evolving. Most of them were ordinary trash, but in this extremely large sample, there were still many miracles in material science, and every single one of them had the potential to change human technology. But they were still silently dying. Only Chen-Ong had recorded their properties in genes, preserving these precious samples. The miracle produced by the evolution potion combined with the X-gene ability was something that even Chen-Ong could not replicate again. The evolution potion was like a key that opened the treasure trove of wealth on the mutants. Chen-Ong had obtained a lot of precious data from the research on the evolution of the Steel Man alone. There were surprising discoveries about the mutation of the human body, the Steel Esper ability, the X-gene, and alloy materials. Among them, the one that delighted Chen-Ong the most was the research on the solidification of metal cells. This kind of iron-based life form had both the attributes of a technological creation and a life form. It had endless potential. The Steel Man was like a science and technology book. Chen-Ong quickly flipped through the content about metal and life, peeking at all the mysteries of his ability. Chen-Ong did not even need to research to find hundreds of ways to deconstruct him. From then on, the Steel Man's ability was no longer a secret to him. He only needed a specific oxidizer to turn the Steel Man into rust slag. Time flew by quickly. Chen-Ong had long forgotten his joke of destroying the world and devoted himself wholeheartedly to his research. In the Star Wars world, humans built furnaces on white dwarfs, using magnetic fields and gravity to melt metal materials. They even created metal products deep in the stars. Tens of thousands of alien races created countless materials with excellent properties, metals with special physical properties, and there were all kinds of magical metal creatures in the universe. Chen-Ong had even dissected an iron-based life form with his own hands. However, the world where the laws of physics were relatively rigorous was far less crazy than this world. Chen-Ong marveled as he looked at the wriggling metal under his hand, displaying all kinds of incredible abilities. Some abilities even subverted the basic laws of physics, just like Wolverine's resilience that ignored the conservation of mass, and Iceman's ice-making ability that ignored the conservation of energy. What a crazy world, Chen-Ong said in surprise. In the world before Chen-Ong traveled, humans were lucky enough to peek into a corner of the microscopic world and marveled at the various dazzling wonders in it. The uncertainty principle, electron warp, the observer effect, and the laws of the macroscopic world collapsed here. All the laws of time, space, and determinism were destroyed beyond recognition. However, no matter how strange the microscopic world was, there was an invisible barrier that caused the laws of the microscopic world to collapse in a macroscopic world. From the microscopic to reality, and from reality to the macroscopic world, a change that humans did not understand made the barrier between them like a natural moat. The X-Men world, this natural moat, collapsed. The laws of the microscopic world could break through the barrier and act on the macroscopic world. Atomic collapse, telepathy, space-time travel, electromagnetic effect, space warp, and all kinds of special abilities in line with the microscopic world, but not in line with the principles of reality, acted on the real world, which made Chen-Ong puzzled. The laws of the microscopic and macroscopic world were intertwined in the real world. Therefore, the laws of physics here were sparse and unusual. Even in the world of Endless, there were only 5 pounds of psychokinesis, but in the X-Men world, it was increased by up to 2,000 times. Chapter 87. A drop of silver metal liquid fell in front of Chen-Ang's eyes, followed by the second drop, the third drop, and so on. Countless drops of liquid metal gathered together and wriggled, forming a human-shaped skeleton. Densely packed metal threads spread along the skeleton. A few seconds later, an intricate and complete robot appeared in front of Chun Ong. Chun frowned as he looked at the result that was enough to shock the world. Liquid metal robots have high requirements for energy and lack the ability to replicate themselves. The professor sat in a wheelchair and came to the periphery of the underground base. He looked up at the huge steel creation in the direction of Manhattan from the skylight. There was a trace of unconcealable worry in his eyes. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door behind him. "Come in," the professor said warmly. When the person came in, he was surprised. "Logan, what happened to you?" The professor frowned and looked at the ragged Wolverine in front of him. Wolverine's body was full of scars. What surprised the professor the most was the dim metal organs on his body. Logan's right arm below the elbow was completely replaced by a metal arm. The professor couldn't imagine what made Logan, who had a strong and almost immortal recovery ability, suffer such a serious injury and can't recover. Logan took the cigar out of his mouth and looked at the professor with a smile. "You have become younger." He waved his right hand carelessly. "This is not an injury. I voluntarily transformed into this. As for why, you can enter my brain and have a look." "You know, Logan, I won't enter any of your brains." The professor sighed. "People have free will. I will not invade anyone's privacy if it is not necessary. Now is the time when it is necessary." Logan leaned over and looked at the professor with a trace of sadness in his eyes. "It was the future you who asked me to come over. Take a look." The professor sank into Logan's spiritual sea. He was surprised to see himself and Magneto standing side by side on a crimson wasteland. Behind them were countless robots, mutants and humans fighting side by side like brothers. But the professor was not in the mood to rejoice because his brothers and sisters were falling. Blood and slaughter, steel and flesh, humans with metal prosthetics, together with the mutants, fought against the tide of robots. Those robots controlled their abilities and slaughtered the humans. "Logan, only you can break through the barrier of time and space. Shadowcat will open a space-time tunnel for you. Go back to the past and stop all this from happening," Magneto said hoarsely. After saying this, the old friend closed his eyes. The professor saw himself in front of Logan and left a sentence in his mind. "Trust him. You came from the future." "Logan." The professor closed his eyes tiredly. "What happened? Why don't you take a look for yourself?" Logan laughed nonchalantly. "Because I trust you." The professor sighed and said, "The future me doesn't want me to see your memories. He must have his reasons. Tell me, what happened?" "After the apocalypse came, it brought great changes to the world. Our government is afraid of his power. In order to fight against him, an old plan was restarted. They began to develop a weapon against the mutants, the Sentinel robot." Logan took out another cigar, sat on the stool, and puffed out a cloud of smoke. "Apocalypse? Is it him?" The professor looked at the steel throne in the distance and sighed. "Yes, because he brought 5 things to this world: plague, war, death, famine, and of course the apocalypse. That's why people call him Apocalypse." Logan's tone was very complicated, and the professor could hear something unusual in it. "But the apocalypse seems to have been brought by the Sentinel robot. What happened in that world? Why did the Sentinel robot go out of control? They seem to be slaughtering all humans, not just the mutants," the professor said sadly. "The Sentinels couldn't do anything to the apocalypse and were easily turned into scrap metal. However, in order to strengthen the power of the Sentinels, the Department of Defense carried out a secret operation. They captured the Demon Woman and used the research results of Weapon X to transplant abilities onto the Sentinels. They established the Mutant Gene Bank and produced robots with different abilities." Logan sighed. The professor looked at him silently, his eyes filled with sorrow. In the end, after the establishment of the Gene Bank, the apocalypse attacked there and plundered all the genes. The Department of Defense tried to develop a more powerful Sentinel robot, but they lost control of the robot. The Sentinels began to slaughter the mutants, even the carriers of Gene X, and then all humans. Logan said this, and suddenly showed a very sarcastic smile. This is actually a joke. We all know that the Department of Defense did not lose control of the Sentinels. They led the massacre of the mutants until the Sentinels really went out of control. Humans created superhuman intelligence, and then were replaced by superhuman intelligence. This is the Superman upheaval. At the same time, on the other side, Chen-Ong stared at the metal liquid in front of him. A drop of liquid dripped on the ground, and then quickly replicated and multiplied on the steel. They piled up into various machines, absorbing energy from the surrounding electromagnetic field. Like a virus, they self-replicated and spread. Chen-Ong recorded all kinds of technological information in the form of genetic code in the steel life. They replicated all kinds of technology and even researched and developed the technological genes in their bodies. Chen-Ong witnessed with his own eyes that a little steel cell, with enough replication ability, developed from the steam age to the internal combustion age in one afternoon. With energy and raw materials, it could be replicated. This was not scary. However, without energy, self-development. Without raw materials, self-development. With science to deal with everything. In the case of Chen-Ong cutting off the energy supply, the steel cell could evolve into solar panels and hydroelectric generators. This was an extremely terrifying thing. This very strong biological metal life had been destroyed by Chen-Ong, leaving only a few samples for storage. Humans and mutants united like a real family. No one brought up the mistakes of the past. We all looked forward to the future. Therefore, we hid the fact of the genocide from the public. Logan looked at the professor with a complicated expression. Professor, you led us to Manhattan, opened a ruin, and released Skynet. What's Skynet? How do I know about Skynet? The professor frowned. Skynet is an artificial intelligence, or rather, a collective consciousness program of machines. Since you brought it out of the steel ruins, the liquid metal has become our best weapon. We injected the spinal cord into the metal cells to form our own supermetal, and through magnetic induction, we controlled it. Logan's right arm suddenly fell down and melted into liquid. Under Logan's control, the metal liquid floated up from the ground and skillfully assembled into different weapons. They were throwing knives, guns, javelins, and even electromagnetic cannons. Skynet, also known as war. We used to think that it was our savior because it did not have an intelligent consciousness, but a macro computing system. Skynet's robot army and humans worked together to defeat the Sentinels, and soon recovered most of the territory. But the ambition of humans destroyed everything. In order to control this weapon, the government came up with a stupid idea. They let the electronic will control this artificial intelligence weapon. At this point, Logan could no longer hide the exhaustion on his face. Then, Skynet had its own consciousness. It awakened. Although the war between it and the Sentinels had to continue, it was not afraid of destroying humanity. It created the Terminator, and together with the Sentinels, they destroyed human society. The professor looked at him sadly and choked. Then you came here. Yes, that time and space. You told me the truth. It was Apocalypse who created War Skynet. He used the cells of the Steel Man's body as a carrier and used advanced technology to create self-replicating nanomachines. Using the brain of the Phantom Master as the prototype, he imitated the group consciousness of the nanomachines. Logan said solemnly, when he obtained Magneto's genes, he solved the most critical problem of energy. The Earth's magnetic field and electricity are almost endless. As long as there is raw material, the nanomachines can replicate infinitely. After Skynet awakened, they became a new race. We must stop Apocalypse from creating Skynet and stop him from obtaining Magneto's genes. Logan said solemnly. The professor was confused. What about the Sentinels? Apocalypse will destroy them. We just need to stop the government from using them again. In the future, the Sentinels were almost destroyed by Skynet. They were driven to human settlements to compete for living space with humans. This time, not only did I travel through time and space with the help of Shadowcat, Skynet also sent the Terminator, Logan said solemnly. It will kill the person in charge of the Sentinel project and destroy the Sentinels of the future. We must destroy the prototype of Skynet and kill the electronic will. Countless nanomachines converged into an ocean. They were connected to each other through weak electromagnetic waves. The vague group consciousness was heavily programmed by Chun-Ong learning from the metal virus. Chun-Ong did not develop anything too dangerous this time. He only wrote a vague AI program for the nanomachines. He also set up many restrictions, not giving the AI a chance to develop independently. Something as terrifying as the metal virus showed the horror of artificial life. Even Chun-Ong had to carefully explore this forbidden technology. If he was not careful, he could destroy the world. Of course, the nanomachines were much more common. These were not mainstream in the world of Star Wars, so they did not pose much of a threat. That was what Chun-Ong thought. The silver-gray ocean was magnificent. Chun-Ong stood on this torrent of machines, controlling the nanomachines to construct countless strange structures. He controlled them to replicate himself and felt the rigid machine program. Chapter 88. The ocean of knowledge was endless. The higher Chun-Ong went, the wider the world became. The deeper he learned, the more he realized how ignorant he was. Even though Chun-Ong maintained the habit of researching and learning for more than 8 hours a day, he still felt more and more powerless. In the face of the vast unknown, the efforts of a single person were too insignificant. When he came out of the laboratory, the moonlight had already passed through the gap in the atrium and shone on the high platform. Another day of research is over. Chun-Ong looked at the bright moonlight and said in realization. He held a 6-sided metal Rubik's Cube in his hand, which emitted a white glow under the moonlight. Chun-Ong let go of his hand and looked at the metal Rubik's Cube floating in the air. Suddenly, he said to the AI program that assisted in the management, Skynet, begin testing. Third space metal testing test. Beginning recording. The dull electronic voice came from the high platform. Several lasers were shot from all directions, forming a small laser screen that shrouded the metal Rubik's Cube. Chun-Ong gently tapped the front of the Rubik's Cube. It began to spin on its own. Amid the mechanical sounds, the Rubik's Cube's modules increased bit by bit. In a short while, it had expanded to dozens of times its original size. The original 64 small modules of 4 horizontal and 4 vertical quickly split into 16 horizontal and 16 vertical Rubik's Cubes of the same size. The volume of the Rubik's Cube increased by 64 times. The Rubik's Cube did not stop spinning. It began to spread out rapidly, and each small module disintegrated rapidly. Countless small modules were arranged and combined continuously. In mid-air, the outline of a floating positron cannon gradually formed. The huge cannon was the size of a house, and it took up more than half of the platform. Its smooth metal surface and delicate mechanical structure made it hard to believe that this was once a palm-sized Rubik's Cube in Chun-Ong's hand. Space Metal Module. Structure of floating positron cannon type 1. Maximum space expansion ratio is 1/100,000. Design parameters are met. Do you want to charge the positron cannon? Skynet asked rigidly. No. Chun-Ong put away the spatial metal module. The huge module was quickly compressed into its original shape, and Chun-Ong put it back into his palm. The development of space metal was very successful. In fact, even Chun-Ong did not expect it to go so smoothly. It could only be said that gravity control had a great advantage in the research of space physics in this world. Gravity was the study of space and mass. Chun-Ong had not only made rapid progress in space physics, but he also had a deeper understanding of the mass effect. Mass and space were closely related and had a distinct system. They were like two sides of a piece of white paper called gravity. They were closely related in many aspects of science. Because of this, Chun-Ong was finally able to apply gravity distortion to real matter and finally develop space metal, a product that completely dissected matter in space. Although the success of space metal was mostly due to the special microscopic laws of this world, it was different from metal cells. Chun-Ong was confident that he could replicate this metal in other worlds. Perhaps the effect would be reduced, but it could still solve the problem of Chun-Ong being unable to carry too much matter. During the process of Chun-Ang's transmigration, the huge changes in space could almost destroy all spatial items. Only matter could be protected by his transmigration ability and pass through the tunnel. Space metal was developed based on this reason. When he walked to the door, Chun-Ong saw Death's attendant wandering around. He had already taken off his mask, and Chun-Ong unstitched his mouth. He looked like a heroic young man. "Boss, you look like you had a good night. Did you create a cyborg for yourself? I know you can do it." "Wade, if you don't want me to be like your former boss, you'd better lower your sense of humor." Chun-Ang's face was calm. He looked at the Manhattan River under the moonlight and watched the full moon rise high. The silver river slowly flowed to the sea, and his temperament became more and more ethereal. He heard Wade's witty words and warned him without turning his head. When Wade heard what he said, it was as if it came from the infinite sky. Wade stared at Chun-Ong with wide eyes, as if he wanted to find something, but he eventually gave up in frustration because he could no longer see Chun-Ong clearly. Chun-Ong seemed to be shrouded in moonlight, and there was a layer of white fog around him. "How are the cancer cells?" Chun-Ong tilted his head and looked at him. Wade grinned and said, "I don't think I've ever felt so good. I've been dreaming about how handsome I am these days." He narcissistically admired the smooth metal wall for a long time and said obsessively, "It's this handsome. I feel like I'm a little more handsome after I've recovered from my illness. I once swore that if someone saved my face, I would treat the world well and treat everyone a little better." Wade said seriously, "Boss, I'll be working under you in the future. Please make sure that I'm healthy. Please love your employees as you love yourself. I don't keep idle people. Tell me what you can do." Chun-Ong looked at him. "I only know how to kill, boss," Wade said solemnly. Chun-Ong looked at him for a while and sighed in disappointment. "You're still a warrior. It sounds amazing, but unfortunately, if that's all you have, you'll be fired. I don't lack trash that can only kill people here." As if to prove Chun-Ang's words, behind him, the Skynet robots quickly reassembled, and dozens of liquid robots carrying ray guns appeared in front of Wade. The ferocious war weapons reflected the cold light of metal. They were born to kill. Deadpool swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said with a smile, "I can see it. I can see it. Can you tell them to stay away from me? They make me feel a little uncomfortable." Chun-Ong ignored his request and said seriously, "Can you teach yourself some surgical medicine? I'm still short of experimental assistants, or a degree in theoretical physics or space physics to help me do some more dangerous experiments. To be honest, I'm short of a fearless assistant like you." Wade blinked and suddenly said, "Boss, do you have someone you hate? I'll help you kill him. I'm a quick killer. It seems that you don't want to learn this." Chun-Ong said lightly, "Research or be researched, this is a question. I thought you would choose the right one. To be honest, what's the use of people who can only kill in this world? Robots can do it better than you. Skynet, specializing in a million kinds of killing techniques, has endless robot clones. I just need to do the next task, and the program will complete it by itself." Chun-Ong sighed and said, "It seems that you only have the value of being researched." "Wait, boss," Deadpool hurriedly said, "I think I can still be saved. What do you want me to do? Just say it. I'm actually a very smart person, and I learn very quickly." "You're not an honest person, Wade," Chun-Ong said slowly. "You have cancer, and I can treat it, so you work for me. Just like Stryker for Weapon X for the U.S. government. You support whoever has the money. But I'm not like them, Wade. I don't need you. You're not as valuable as you think. This means one thing. I won't tolerate you that much. Boss can tolerate the willfulness of his excellent employee, but it doesn't mean that a loser has bargaining chips. Don't show off your cleverness here, Wade. I know what you're doing behind my back. If there were no robots, I would teach you how to be a man." Wade curled his lips. Chun-Ong slowly stretched out his hand, and Wade saw nanomachines quickly carrying metal particles, smelting and hammering in midair. In just a breath's time, a furnace made of nanomachines appeared in front of the two. The crimson metal solution, under the control of machinery, was cooled and shaped, forged in the electromagnetic furnace, then tempered, quenched, and cooled. When a silver-white metal sword came to Chun Ang's hand, the whole process took no more than 3 minutes. The power of Skynet was fully displayed, and Wade had to hold his breath and feel the suffocating power of technology. When Chun Ang's hand held the hilt of the sword, there was an indescribable and inexplicable feeling that made the hair on Wade's back stand up, as if facing something terrible, a sharp feeling like the tip of a knife across the skin. P.S. When it goes on sale tomorrow, I have to sort out the outline. There is only 1 chapter today. For the next week, I will maintain 3 chapters a day. For this reason, I have specially sorted out the outline and paved the way for the next 30,000 words of plot. It's the first time for me to update with such a high intensity. It's scary to think about it. Many readers in the book review area don't know where chapters 81, 82, and 83 are. In fact, they are the first, second, and third previews. I have counted them in the number of chapters. The previews and the main text are seamlessly connected. By the way, I will ask for the first chapter for tomorrow. 3 chapters a week. Although it may not be as refreshing as some books, 5 chapters and 10 chapters, it's already vomiting blood for me. Chapter 89. Rex, Deadpool gently took off the adamantium katana from his back. The blade was cold and bright, like a pool of clear water, refreshing. In his eyes, the world suddenly became very slow, so slow that even the cold light reflected by the blade was clear and transparent. The tip of the blade lightly pressed forward, making a katana-style appearance. Then, the blade light was like snow. Deadpool's nerve reflex speed was enough for him to see the flying bullet clearly. His body's coordination and flexibility could also keep up with this terrible reaction speed. The keen sense tempered between life and death allowed Deadpool to make accurate judgments at a critical moment. He replaced his brain with intuition. Deadpool's katana technique is direct and accurate. He abandoned all changes of martial arts and dragged the opponent into a rapid battle with his super sense of time. Under the speed, all skills are empty words. But intuition is intuition, skills are skills. When there is a terrible existence in the world who replaces the subconscious with consciousness and is more sensitive to time than Deadpool, the straightforward katana technique becomes a ridiculous existence. Chun Ong stretched out 2 fingers, and in this terrible state of life and death, like taking something out of his pocket, he clamped the invincible adamantium katana. His nails were neatly trimmed, and his hands were well protected. His slender and white fingers didn't even have calluses formed by long-term friction, just like a pair of ornaments. Deadpool also secretly laughed at these hands because they grew on the body of a weak gigolo. But it was these 2 fingers, like an iron clamp, firmly clamped Deadpool's blade. Deadpool swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at his katana with a little fear. It grew on Chun Ang's left hand like a root. I think everything is fine. What did you just say? In fact, the plan of the Earth King has nothing to do with me. You don't seem to be fast enough, Chun Ong said with a smile. That depends on who you want to compare with, Wade habitually said. Then, he knew he was wrong. Chun Ong didn't like his mouth. The sword was not fast. Or it could be said that Chun Ong did not make it that fast. To a master of gravity manipulation, speed, time, and space were no obstacles. As long as Chun Ong was willing, he could even make the sword move. It appeared directly in Deadpool's heart. However, this time, Chun Ong did not use his special ability to cheat. Bullying an idiot who did not understand physics could not be done for a long time. Otherwise, it would quickly lose its fun. He just used ordinary strength and ordinary speed to perform his swordsmanship that was not surprising at all. It did not affect the physical constants and the laws of the world, and Deadpool could even see it clearly. The blade was crawling towards him bit by bit, as slow as a snail, with his reaction speed. At this moment, he could make 16 slashes. How could such a sword technique hurt people? When Deadpool saw the blood on his neck fluttering like a flag, his heart was still full of confusion. The blade had already passed through his throat. He was powerless and couldn't even avoid this slow blade. When he dodged the stab of the sword, Chunang's sword immediately underwent an unexpected transformation. He only used 13 transformations. Deadpool was forced into a corner and had to parry with his long sword. When the sword and saber clashed, his hands felt an indescribable tremor. His long sword was easily knocked away by Chunang. A hidden destructive force disrupted Deadpool's coordination ability. He could even feel that his internal organs had been shaken out of insignificant damage, destroying his mobility, and it took time to recover. In the next moment, his throat was pierced by the blade. Not only are you not fast enough, even your skills are a little lacking. Chunang wiped the dull blade, leaving no trace on it, and the blood slipped from the blade as if it had never existed. Wade opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but the burning pain in his throat made him give up this move. He was surprised to find that his recovery ability was suppressed to the lowest level. Although he didn't die, it was difficult to heal the wound. Blood stained his chest, and Deadpool habitually ignored it. But now he found his fatal mistake. His legs softened and he knelt on the ground, feeling the gradual loss of strength in his body and the dizziness when the blood left his body. Abilities are the third hand of human beings, or even the sixth sense. You should observe, use, and feel them. Humans use their hands to create tools, not to pick up stones and wave them. Such a simple and extremely easy to crack application is like a child playing house. Your abilities are no longer a secret in front of me. Chunang stood in front of Wade solemnly, controlling the nanorobots to repair Wade's wound, and sighed. The same ability can't be used a second time in front of scientists, because after we study it clearly, that kind of thing has no secrets. You need to develop a new unique skill. He turned around and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a huge hole broke open in the ground. Under Chunang's feet, the ground became as muddy as a swamp, and Chunang's feet were trapped. How is it? Our new unique skill is not bad, right? Steelman rushed over from the side and grinned. Thanks to you, our arcana has undergone a brand new change. The change in the substance of fluids can make the properties of steel become like glue. Your fragile body is nothing without your arcana. Where did the gravity control go? You can try it. See if the iron blade pierces your body faster or the speed at which your ability works. You lifted the illusion master's shackles, which is your biggest mistake. As if to vent his dissatisfaction of being a test subject, Steelman controlled his body and sprouted ferocious steel thorns. Now, I'm going to use the gift you gave me to teach you a lesson. He waved the alloy thorns on his arm and walked toward Chunang. Did you hear what I said just now? Chunang said lightly. Steelman didn't expect him to say that. He was stunned and asked back. What? If you heard it, you should know that your abilities have no secrets in front of me. Chunang gently walked out of the quagmire. The fluid behind him faded away little by little. The changes on his body were sealed in steel as he screamed. Steelman was stunned by this sudden change. He watched in horror as the fluid was covered by nanomachines. Chunang easily got rid of their trap and came in front of them. There are two obvious mistakes in your words. First, leave the ability. I still have my brain. Even if you don't have an ability, with your abilities that have been thoroughly studied, it is impossible for you to deal with me. The nanomachines quickly appeared around him and climbed on his Steelman's body. He was horrified to find that the nanomachines flashing with electromagnetic light made his body almost paralyzed. He couldn't control himself. Chunang came in front of him. He said lightly, Second, the ones who are really weak without the ability are you. You think I'm fighting with you? Chunang sneered. But in fact, the battle ended 3 days ago. Exploring the unknown, studying the law of your abilities, and exploring the mysteries of your abilities. In science, I and your abilities are engaged in a battle full of unknown possibilities. I may lose, but I may also win. Science is an unknown. When I'm researching, it's a fierce battle. It was an intense battle. They used their wisdom and knowledge to explore, to battle with the unknown, and to battle with themselves. This battle is so magnificent. When the experiment is over, I've solved the unknown secrets of your abilities. At that time, I've already won. The nanomachines sprayed synthetic substances, and Steelman's body quickly began to rust. The hard alloy steel shattered into debris in the air. Steelman screamed as he looked at his limbs, which became fragile in the air. A little special rust agent made him completely fall into a life-threatening crisis. The scientific battle between me and your abilities is already over. Your challenge is just to make me repeat the process of solving the problem. And your abilities, except for your abilities, are all zero. It's not even within the scope of consideration for solving the problem. To be honest, you are simply upright apes. If a monkey were to come, the abilities given to them would not be too bad. Steelman's face turned ashen. Even Deadpool on the side was worried. Chun-Ong said a fatal point. Without their abilities, what were they? So the battle was Chun-Ang's battle with the abilities, not with them. When the abilities lost, their wisdom and abilities were completely useless. Chun-Ong said lightly, "How many ways do you think I have to deal with your alloy body? Oxidation, rust, electromagnetism, metal-eating bacteria. A solved problem can be solved again. There can be many answers. This is purely physical work. I take action, and then you lose. You didn't even give me an unknown variable." Chun-Ong stepped aside, revealing Earth King sealed in concrete. He came to Steelman and let the nanomachines repair his body. Also, I don't like to control people, so you can get rid of Jason's sensory control. I think the wisdom of human beings will let you give me different surprises, not like robots. I don't lack powerful subordinates. Unfortunately, you have forgotten how to use your brain to think and live like animals. The curiosity of the unknown, the courage and wisdom to explore the unknown, is what separates humans from other animals. Chun-Ong walked out and let the robots send them back to the laboratory. He didn't have any expectations for Earth King and the others. Without enough wisdom and knowledge, they couldn't even understand their own strength like a child waving a sledgehammer. When Chun-Ong removed the sledgehammer, they were useless like trash. Chun-Ong didn't even care about controlling such people, because they wouldn't improve even if he did it 100 times. After thoroughly studying their abilities, they were only worth as experiment subjects to Chun-Ong. Chun-Ong gave them a chance to show their abilities as warriors. Unfortunately, they didn't use their brains. In the end, this group of experiment subjects only had the fate of being experimented on. They thought that their failure was accidental, but they didn't know that. The same problem couldn't stump a scientist twice. To be continued. P.S. This is the first chapter of the third watch. Next is a week of explosive time. Everyone, quickly throw your monthly tickets to me to replenish your stamina and inspiration. The support of the readers is my inexhaustible motivation. Thank you to everyone who has been with me. Thank you for continuing to walk with me. Chapter 90. Rex. Deadpool took the 2 adamantium alloy knives and set off. After the modulation of the evolution potion, there are not many places that can stop the elusive Deadpool. Skynet's nanomachines will assist him in completing the tasks assigned by Chun-Ong. Sir. Jason bowed humbly. Chun-Ong nodded, and he came in carefully. After some training, the Phantom Master was very clear about his position. Even his mental illness was improved under Chun-Ang's destruction. Now, together with Deadpool, he has become Chun-Ang's right-hand man, which is very different from the other 3 experimental subjects. Of course, the so-called right-hand man is only Jason himself. Chun-Ong, who has Skynet, does not think that he is short of action talents. He just doesn't want Skynet to be exposed to the world too early, so he accepted these 2 errand boys. You guys work on this mission together. Chun-Ong was busy with the experiment in his hand and ordered casually, "I will fully support Deadpool's mission." Jason replied cautiously, "No, if he can't even get back in adamantium, he doesn't need to come back." Chun-Ong said indifferently. He raised his head and looked at Jason. "When Deadpool comes back, you will go with him and say hello to the White House. Pay attention. Don't scare our president, the target. Just shave off his hair." "We know, sir." Jason quickly agreed. Jason soon left, and Chun-Ong was still in front of the test bench, but he had stopped the experiment in his hand. "Skynet, seal this area. Level 3 alert." Chun-Ong ordered lightly. "Roger." The red light in midair flickered twice, and countless nanomachines surrounded and blocked the laboratory where Chenong was. Countless liquid-like robots formed a huge secret room, and an old man in a wheelchair appeared opposite Chenong and nodded to Chenong. Chenong knew that the professor was still dozens of miles away, and this was just his consciousness projection. Stop the war. That was enough. Not only did the war not alleviate the conflict between the mutated humans and humans, but it also aggravated the conflict in society. Is there any other way? The professor sighed. What is it? Continue to be a superhero and fight crime? But people would only remember the pain that the mutants had caused them. You will remember your covetous eyes on the dominance of human society, but you will not remember your efforts for peace. Chenong looked at the professor and went straight to the point. The professor was silent. He could already feel the undercurrent, the increasingly intense conflict. The racial war was right in front of them. The conflict between the two sides had been suppressed to the extreme. Even he felt a trace of fatigue and had the consciousness of sacrificing himself. Mutants were once the pride of evolution, but now you are just the eliminated ones of society. Chenong pointed out mercilessly. Professor, the differences between humans and animals are social and economic. Culture, industry, technology, and creativity. Mutants are nothing in these aspects. Most of the mutants live at the bottom of society. They think with their muscles and fists. Your social form is closer to some dynamic social organizations that worship power and have a clear hierarchy. Perhaps the mutants were once wealth. Superpowers are also talents, but now the mutants are the cancer and residue of society. Looking at the professor's face getting paler and paler, Chenong sighed. Please forgive me for being so direct. You are right. The professor sighed. We have not adapted to this society. This is our biggest problem. Superpowers are wealth, but we have power, but we have no contribution to society. We ask for power, but we have no contribution. This is why ordinary people are most hostile to us. You have superpowers. You should be better, but you don't. In human society, showing off your power like animals will only be met with disdain. Humans are divided by status and wealth. Chenong raised his hand and said, superpowers should be your third hand. It brings you unparalleled talent. Learn, create, explore, use it to develop your own wisdom and contribute to the advancement of mankind, instead of indulging in power. You seem to have evolved, but your society is regressive. Chenong gently flicked a few times in the void, and beautiful notes came from his hand. With great power comes great responsibility. Cherish talent and develop wisdom. Mutants should be more outstanding people, not a group of lunatics who only know how to destroy. Chenong looked at the professor and said solemnly, use your power to create, not to destroy. Use your power to help others, not to be above them. This is the promise I have kept all my life, and it is also my insistence. X-Men, help others with our own power. We choose to integrate into humanity and make our contribution. The professor took a deep breath. So we're not the same kind of people. You look forward to peace, but I look forward to progress more. Chenong said seriously, superpowers are a kind of wealth, a kind of outstanding talent. Mutants should not simply integrate into this society, but should lead the development of the era, use their potential to move forward, improve, and promote the progress of human society and science. I look forward to the day when you use your abilities to explore the unknown and nature. You use your wisdom to develop your own abilities and let your superpowers become your third hand, your third eye, your second brain, and liberate your creative ability. That is the world I look forward to and work hard for. I know what they are afraid of. The professor said worriedly, talent should not be a shackle of a person. There are strong and weak innate abilities. This difference in ability makes ordinary people fear us, worried that we will establish a social system above them, worried that we will use our superpowers to distinguish ranks and status. If we don't solve these things and blindly promote the progress of this society, it will only bring destruction. We don't have a second chance, the professor said excitedly. You mean the news brought back by Wolverine? Chun-Ong smiled and sat in front of the professor, crossing his hands and looking at him playfully. You know, the professor was surprised. Chun-Ong came to his ear and whispered, "Trust him." The professor turned around in shock and stood up. His virtual shadow abandoned the wheelchair and looked at Chun-Ong solemnly. After a long time, he sat down again. I always thought that this sentence was for me to trust Logan. But now I understand that this sentence should be for you. There has always been a doubt that has troubled me. Now I understand. You brought Logan back. The person who let him come here is not Phantom Cat. It is you. Oh, I would like to hear more. Chun-Ong spread his hands and motioned for him to continue. There's a problem with what Phantom Cat said. Let's not talk about the space-time barrier, but Logan's mind transmigrated. It is impossible for him to carry a liquid metal arm. Unless someone gave him one, and that person can only be me. Chun-Ong admitted frankly. Yes, it was me who caused Logan's space-time travel. Gravity is an ability closely related to space-time. I found this possibility in the time vector, the possibility of the world's destruction. What is interesting is that you still haven't given up hope. The end of the world is not the result I want, so I helped you. You put the possibility of Logan's future into his brain. The professor said seriously, Skynet is real, and everything in the future is real, but that is only a possibility. And it is the biggest possibility, so I want to change it. I think the idea of reversing the future is very good. Chun-Ong smiled. The liquid metal robot is an interesting change. I'm just sharing it with you. In the future, it will solve the problem of the status of mutants and ordinary people. It can give ordinary people superpowers. The professor reacted sharply. Metal superpower cells, something that is being developed. It is very dangerous, but according to my speculation, after it is fused with human stem cells, it can simulate the X gene, Chun-Ong said lightly. So you want the Sentinel project to be carried out. You want to use the X gene pool of each country to decipher the secrets of the X gene. Develop this technology? The professor looked at Chun-Ong, and his eyes were serious. No, this is just a side project. I have a strong interest in scientific research and genetic code. Even without this, I will do this. Everything is for the sake of moving forward, Chun-Ong said lightly. You want the United States to feel strong pressure. When conventional weapons can't do anything, they can only choose the direction of the X gene. No matter which direction they choose, you can reap their results. This is your purpose. Is Skynet also developed for this reason? The professor asked. No, Skynet is the next step of the plan. If the Sentinels are too dangerous, Skynet will protect humanity. If they are not strong enough, then Skynet will be humanity's enemy. No matter what, you need a strong external pressure to promote the union of mutants and humans to help you move forward. Of course, you can also clean up the old, rotten, and hindering factors of social progress. This will promote the change of blood in human society, Chun-Ong said seriously. Why are you doing this? The professor couldn't help but ask. We can wait and not make the choice for them. We don't know if what we're doing is right or wrong. We don't have the right to make the choice for the world. There is a limit to human strength. I can't move forward alone. So, I'm dragging the whole world into this. Either they will walk to the end with me, or they will be destroyed together. It is not practical for me to promote the development of science with my time and energy alone. So, I want the world to become my laboratory and let all of humanity move forward with me, Chun-Ong said with a smile. This is crazy. The professor sighed helplessly. No, not at all. Skynet has been unfolded, and the Terminators are already in place. Not only Logan, but I also created other reborn from the future. They will speed up this process. As long as we put a little more pressure on the U.S. government, they will start Project X and collect the genes of mutants. You have already started, right? The professor said seriously. Yes, Deadpool is a talent. I mean, his mouth can drive the president crazy. This huge and old bureaucratic machine will run like crazy. My first goal is the mutant gene bank. Of course, it hasn't started yet. You want to invade the White House. The professor said angrily. You will intensify the contradictions of the whole society. No, with the main contradiction of the destruction of the Earth. Human beings have no intention of fighting each other. When the meteorite falls, their only choice is to unite and deal with me, the enemy of the world. And what is the White House? It's just a slap on the face of this bureaucratic machine. With those people's faces, maybe they will forget in a blink of an eye. What I want is to grab their lifeblood and make them panic, fear, and have difficulty sleeping. Chinong pointed to the map. What about the Federal Reserve? You're going to destroy the financial industry, the professor said slowly. These vampires that hinder the development of society should have died long ago, shouldn't they? Chinong smiled and said, "It was my wish for a long time to put street lights on the streets of bankers. Of course, this time I am here to destroy their money. I will stop you," the professor said firmly. "Welcome." Chinong nodded. "This time, I will do it myself." The professor's shadow slowly dissipated. Chinong knew that he and the professor had reached a certain tacit understanding. The professor would not agree with his ideas, but he would cooperate when appropriate. The journey of mankind should be the sea of stars. I will wait for you to move forward, Chinong said to the air. He knew that the professor could hear it. To be continued. Chapter 91. Rex. At night, a Caucasian youth woke up from a nightmare. He sat on the bed and gasped for breath. He reached out his hands to touch his surroundings. The young man's hands and feet were restless as he impatiently pushed the bits and pieces on the table to the ground, causing them to crash into each other. He stumbled his way to the table lamp before turning it on in a panic. The bright light made the youth relax. Only then did he have the mood to look around. It would have been better if he didn't look. The moment he looked, the youth rolled off the bed and onto the floor. He shouted in shock, "Where is this? Isn't this my home from 30 years ago? Oh my God." He hurriedly ran off the bed and went to the bathroom. When he saw himself in the mirror, he was stunned. "I'm Gene. This is me when I was young." Gene rushed out of the bathroom and went to the living room. He took out his phone and looked at the time. He covered his mouth and sat on the floor. He trembled as he held the phone. Tears flowed out. This is October 30th years ago. This month, the apocalypse came and turned Manhattan into ruins. This month, it was the beginning of all nightmares. This month, it was also the eve of war, the beginning of everything. This was a magnificent era. After the apocalypse came, the curtains of superpowers and science, robots and humans, war and war, iron and blood began in this month. Gene covered his mouth. He couldn't control his excitement. The Sentinel Massacre hasn't started yet. Skynet is still quietly in Manhattan. I don't know if it has been born yet. The government's stupid actions haven't started yet. Everything still has a chance. As long as we can stop all of this, the future apocalypse won't happen. At this time, I'm just a carrier of the X gene. The future supermetal and liquid alloy technology hasn't been invented by the apocalypse. I don't have superpowers. I only have passion and courage. I also have the combat skills and marksmanship that I trained in the future. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. I know that in the future, I will definitely be able to destroy the apocalypse and Skynet. I will save this world. Gene was excited as he thought about the exciting parts. He started to recall the memories he knew. It seemed to be the effect of going back to the past. He could even remember the next few days. Those things happened a long time ago, but his memory of his transmigration was very vague. Gene did not take it to heart, thinking that this was a normal phenomenon of time and space reversing. In the future, the Esper ability developed by the superalloy for Xeon was mental connection, which was an extremely common ability. However, Gene had always found it strange. It was as if his supernatural ability was not limited to that. This time, he understood a little. His supernatural ability should be the five senses synchronicity, which helped him transmit his memories and thoughts back to the past. Gene began to think and remember very seriously. Who is Apocalypse? No one knew. Where did he come from? No one knew. This man was like a mystery. Gene had only heard of his legend, the Apocalypse, the man who brought war, death, plague, and famine, the devil who gave humans Pandora's box. In Gene's awakening, after becoming a determined warrior, he disappeared, leaving behind only legends and, of course, Skynet. Thinking of Skynet, Xeon clenched his fists tightly. By now, Skynet should have been born. He couldn't stop it, nor could he stop Apocalypse from creating its warbringer. The future once represented hope, but later brought despair and pain to humanity. Skynet's nanomachines, Warbringer, and Skynet's liquid battle robots, Terminator. The core of Warbringer's remains was the precious superalloy, the weapon of the future humans. I need superalloy. Gene made up his mind. Without power, I can't change the tragedy of the future. Whether it is Skynet or the Sentinels, I can't stop them. I must become stronger and contact the X-Men. Gene frowned. Scott is not a qualified leader. His naivety and impulsiveness are not suitable for war. I will turn the tide, defeat Apocalypse, and win freedom for humanity. Only I can lead the X-Men from one victory to another. Skynet and the Sentinels have not fully evolved. I know their weaknesses, and I can destroy them before they become stronger. Gene was in high spirits. He hurriedly combed his hair and walked out of the house. As soon as he walked out, Gene saw a huge ruin in the distance. A city of steel stood in the center of Manhattan. Dark clouds hung low, connecting with the dark city. In the future, there will be a huge crater here. The river will converge into a lake, and the steel ruins will be at the bottom of the lake. Apocalypse was a level 6 mutant, a level specially set for him, X. He controlled gravity, and was also called the Master of Gravity or the King of Attraction. He was a truly invincible and terrifying opponent. Gene thought of the gravity formulas determined by him in the textbooks, and couldn't help but tremble. These could be said to be the foundation of Apocalypse's power and wisdom, but every mutant suffered the destruction of his spatial mathematics. When Gene thought about the complicated formulas required for the supercomputer to run, as well as the spatial math problems and exercises that force psychics to their deaths, the calculation methods, and the principle of imagination, as a typical bad student with low intelligence, a community college graduate, Gene felt a chill in his heart. That's the natural fear of a top student. Even if Gene was confident, he still didn't want to go against Apocalypse unless it was absolutely necessary. Imaginary mathematics, spatial mathematics, thinking of these terrifying knowledge that subverted common sense, Gene was afraid to see him. That's right, Tianchi is a very patient person. He loves knowledge, and these are things that he researched in the future. He probably doesn't know about them yet. If I use these things, I should be able to exchange them for super metals. Gene, who was calculating how to exchange Chun Ang's knowledge with him, probably didn't expect that he and a few reborn people were under the pursuit of Skynet. He was excitedly planning his future. The biggest opportunity in these few days should be Apocalypse's destruction of the Federal Reserve. The 12 Federal Reserve banks were breached one by one in 3 days. First was New York, then Chicago, then Los Angeles. All the financial information and gold reserves were destroyed, and the financial industry suffered an unparalleled blow. After that, the Sentinel Project had more than 10 banks to provide funds. Did Apocalypse do it on purpose? The future Sentinels didn't cause him any trouble, but the humans who created them had to rely on Skynet to resist. Gene recalled the popular conspiracy theory of the future. Professor and Apocalypse had long been in cahoots, and the Sentinels grew under his connivance. Gene suddenly opened his mouth and laughed. What nonsense am I thinking? How is this possible? Gene waved his hand and stopped the taxi. He got up and got in the car. He wanted to go to the Federal Reserve Bank to take a look. In the future, there were many places where he could get a bargain. As long as he was careful, it was possible to get a semi-finished super metal. After I get it, I'll give it to Magneto. In the future, he can copy the finished product. It shouldn't be difficult now. Going to the Federal Reserve Bank? Gene and the driver talked. There are quite a lot of people going there today. The driver turned the car around and chatted with Gene. My colleague just drove a strange man. He was wrapped up tightly in a hot day and looked like a wanted criminal. He was at a place like a bank. My colleague asked him to show his ID. Guess what he said? The driver answered his own question. He said, he's from a Federal Shield. Ha, the Federal Shield. Gene's face became serious. This is the government's agency in charge of major crises. This news there's something unusual about it. There's another customer who is also going to the Federal Reserve Bank. He's Chinese. I saw his car, but he waved his hand and asked me to stop. He didn't want to take his own car, but wanted to take a taxi. Asians are strange. He was wearing a pair of sunglasses and didn't take them off until he got out of the car. How rude. What does he look like? He's no different from other Asians. Small eyes, short nose, yellow skin. I can't tell, you know. Oh, his hair seems to be quite long, and he looks quite elegant. Does he have a very special gaze? Clearly behind the sunglasses, but you can feel that he's looking at you. There's a kind of temperament that allows you to recognize him at a glance in a sea of people. Even if he's Asian, he's different from other Asians. There's a very special feeling about him. If you see him, you won't forget him. Jean was sweating profusely. Yes, do you know him? I'd rather not know him. Did he still have a rose cufflink? The rose gold kind? Jean's voice became more and more shaky. Even the driver felt that something was wrong. Sir, what's wrong? We're already here. Let's go. Jean grabbed his hand and said anxiously. Seeing that the driver didn't move, he repeated, hurry. Before he finished, a huge alloy door slammed into the ground in front of them. Jean saw the existence of countless nightmares. It walked past him and entered the Federal Reserve Bank. To be continued. XH123. Chapter 92. Rex. Chunong gently pushed open the glass door of the Federal Reserve Bank. His shadow was reflected on the smooth marble floor, and the crisp sound of footsteps could be heard. The people in the lobby all turned their heads in surprise. A young customer service staff came up and said to Chunong, I'm sorry, sir. The bank is closed today. We've caused you inconvenience. Hey, stop right there. A man in police uniform shouted. Chunong stopped and looked at him with a smile. Take off your glasses. We suspect you're related to terrorists. Now, put your hands on your head and get down on the floor. The police officer shouted. He frowned and looked at Chunong. He placed his right hand on the frame of his glasses and raised his gun impatiently. I told you to get down. Now, put your hands on your head. The female customer service staff's face was pale. She said to Chunong, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She begged him to follow the police officer's instructions. Chunong took off his glasses, and the impatient police officer stepped forward. He saw the customer service staff looking at Chunong with her mouth wide open. The young woman's legs were trembling, and she could not stand steadily. Tears were flowing out of her glasses. She opened her mouth a few times and said in a trembling voice, Sir, I don't know anything. Don't kill me. The officer pulled the woman away and raised the gun in his hand. He was shocked to see that the silver frame in Chun Ang's hand had turned into gravel and slipped from his hand, disappearing on the floor. Put your hands on your head, or I will shoot. No, no. The customer service staff had recognized Chunong. She recognized this young man from the Empire State Building a few days ago. She tried to stop the police officer, but it was too late. The bullet was fired out of the gun. The shiny brass bullet was fired out of the gun at an astonishing speed. The customer service staff could see it clearly. The bullet was changing shape, softening, and twisting at the muzzle. The parts of the machine quickly assembled and formed something like a mini aircraft. The bullet flew back into the gun. Then, the entire pistol in the policeman's hand began a series of transformations. The transforming machine coiled around his wrist like a snake, rapidly perfecting and transforming itself in front of the female customer service agent. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the structure became extremely complicated. The police officer screamed and shouted for help. The surrounding security personnel, police officers, and special service personnel quickly gathered there, but the hall had already undergone a drastic change. All the metal objects, whether it was the safety door or the door, had been destroyed. Ornaments, even the nib of a pen, the buckle of a belt. They all began to transform and attack. As the metal particles attacked the nearest humans, they quickly gathered together to form tiny mechanical insects. They pounced on the others and drilled into their bodies, causing them to faint and faint. Dozens of security personnel collapsed on the marble slabs, their guns. They agilely crawled on the ground and gathered in front of Chunong. A huge metal pillar appeared in front of everyone. It inserted its tentacles into the wires, absorbing electricity and energy. It became a blazing electromagnetic furnace. Silver-white nanomachines rushed out of the furnace, gathered on the ground, and formed dozens of exquisitely structured combat robots, which rushed into the hall. Chunong gently waved his hand and used gravity to push the people in the hall to a safe place. He signaled with his eyes, and the female customer service agent followed him, trembling with fear. "Relax, everyone. I'm here to rob a bank," Chunong said with a smile. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, Chunong stepped forward and shouted to the people inside, "You've been surrounded. Please don't resist stubbornly. Resistance will not end well. You're provoking the dignity of the United States. You can't bear its anger." A man in black walked out of the hall. The surrounding robots were dismantled by an invisible force. Next to him, a young woman smiled coldly at Chun-Ong suddenly. She opened her mouth wide and looked in Chun-Ang's direction. His companion skillfully took out a headset and put it on his head. A powerful sound wave broke out, and the sweeping sonic boom shattered all the items in front of Chun-Ong. The glass within dozens of miles suddenly exploded at the same time. The hostages in the hall screamed, but they were suppressed by the woman's sound wave alone. In their panic, they didn't realize that their surroundings were clean and there was no glass. Chunong found a chair and sat down leisurely. The nanomachines were broken in the sound wave, and then quickly adjusted their structure, reorganized, and formed some instruments in front of Chun-Ong to measure the physical data of the sound wave. The surrounding concrete rustled down in the sound wave, revealing the steel structure, and Chun-Ang's collar was only a little messy. "Interesting ability," Chun-Ong commented. Shield's elite agents, the mutants Banshee and Rip, looked at Chun-Ong with eyes full of disbelief. Banshee retracted her sound wave, and looking at Chun-Ang's calm expression, the two could hardly suppress their anger. A trace of ferocity flashed on Rip's face, but he quickly suppressed his impulse. He glanced at the strange nanomachines and sneered. "Let's clean up this garbage first." There was no shock wave, no high temperature, and no sound or light. A strong pressure pressed down out of thin air, crushing the surrounding robots into scrap iron. "You shouldn't provoke us. We're not a group of trash in the military." Rip's voice was calm and cruel. "You should know who the real master of this country is. You can't afford to provoke their power. Don't think you're great just because you defeated the group of trash in the government. You can't imagine the power of capital. Who you choose to be your friend, you should choose clearly." Banshee smiled and said, "Mr. Morgan is very willing to meet you. He is very interested in your theory of mutants. Mr. Morgan believes that mutants around the world, as a new political force, have already stepped onto the stage, and he can give you unexpected support. What you did in Manhattan was already very excessive, but solving this problem is a piece of cake for Mr. Morgan. He can give you a new identity and let his government let bygones be bygones." Rip's tone was a typical white elite. There was an irrepressible sense of arrogance and charity in his tone. "In the future, you will know our power. The public doesn't understand us, but you need to understand us, or else." Banshee smiled ambiguously. She handed over a document. "Look at our strength. You will know who you must be friends with and what interests you can't touch." Chun-Ong glanced at the document and didn't take it. Banshee's face darkened. She sneered and said, "Don't die without knowing why. If I were you, I would read it carefully." She had never seen anyone who dared to reject the terrifying power of controlling the world's capital. This kind of terrifying power could scare anyone to death. It could be said that as long as these people were not satisfied, even the leader of the only superpower could only die quietly. They controlled 80% of the world's wealth and 60% of the capital. They were the financial geniuses, the real masters of this world, and also the hands behind the political forces. Such a force. There was nothing they couldn't achieve on Earth. Unfortunately, this Earth was too small. The world was too big. "I don't need to understand this," Chun-Ong said lightly. "I'm not interested in an ant that was trampled to death by a passerby, and I won't ask about its strength. Is there a difference between a weak ant and a stronger ant? By the same logic, why would I want to understand a remnant of history? It's filled with the smell of stale, rotten, and stupid. Forces that can't promote social progress and obstruct the realization of science will eventually be crushed by the general trend of history. Or be crushed by me. A sneer appeared on Banshee's face. She took a few steps back and came behind Shredder. But Chun-Ong didn't even have the mood to raise his hand. There was a rustling sound, but there was no explosion, nor was there any flame. In front of Chun-Ong, there was a huge steel dome, blocking the crushing atmosphere of Lacerate. Lacerate, who was controlling the air pressure, had his face flushed red. The huge pressure in the air was so strong that he could not move a single step forward. Chun-Ong watched them quietly from the side. Around them, countless ant-like nanomachines gathered into a huge wave. Banshee opened her mouth, and a huge sound wave swept out, but it was useless in front of an Anomikine's sound-absorbing structure. Countless agile mechanical insects quickly rushed towards them. Shredder's face sank, and he raised his hand to form a huge pressure zone in front of him. The insects were pressed against the marble floor by the air pressure, but they still dragged their tiny mechanical forelimbs and crawled towards the two people. Shredder could see that the robots on the ground were quickly changing their stress structure to adapt to the huge pressure. He even found that many of the robot insects had already reorganized their stress structure before they rushed over. More and more insects pounced on them, and they were getting closer and closer to the two of them. Rip's face even turned purple from the pressure. The marble floor around them could not withstand the huge pressure, and cracks appeared on it. However, the mechanical insects that were changing their structures rapidly approached each other and formed a more reasonable structure to withstand the pressure. Step by step, they firmly pressed towards the two of them. The reorganized robot's electronic eyes flashed with a cold and indifferent light. The two people's faces turned pale. Banshee bit her lower lip and roared at Chun-Ong. "You will regret this. You will never know how big a mistake you have made, and how terrifying an enemy you have provoked. There will be no place for you in this world." She hysterically cursed at Chun-Ong. Chun-Ong ignored her and looked into the distance. A real army was on the way here. Elite soldiers who had undergone X-gene surgery and mutated clones were holding plastic guns and carrying high-tech weapons from several major technology companies. They were approaching this place. The power of capital represented the world's most advanced technology, the most powerful weapons, the most whimsical and outrageous technology and army. Even Chun-Ong couldn't help but look askance at some of the black technology. Even Chun-Ong couldn't study a lot of human data. Without going through bloody experiments, this data that was difficult to grasp had already become technology here. If one looked from the sky, they could see that this place had already been surrounded by countless elite squads. If one looked further, one could see that Chun-Ang's position was the center of the countless destructive weapons. To be continued.